Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. It is NFL Draft Day from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The NFL sits down with the big show that is a non-competitive sporting event, a treat for all of us. The Underwear Olympics into the pre-draft process into now a Pittsburgh draft where we hope and expect to hear at least one Ute name called in the first round, potentially two, and I think more probably two. And then, of course, day two, day three, some more local interests will be sprinkled in there. BYU fans probably get involved either late day two or early day three. Dallin Bentley, Logan Fano, Lander Barton, these are probably day three guys. But the headliners are Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu. And Spencer Fano is one of the headliners of the entire draft class. We still get to hold our breaths wondering whether or not he is considered to be the top tackle taken. Now, the top tackle taken, how about that, 3 T's? The top tackle taken, that's a lofty and illustrious position in an NFL draft. This year, that might be, though, the Cleveland Browns picking at 6. And we've had great offensive linemen in Cleveland. One of the greatest ever, Joe Thomas, spent his career in Cleveland, blocking consistently, almost flawlessly for, 17 different starting quarterbacks. And as a result, Joe Thomas never won the big one. He never got close to the big one. He never got to be deeply involved in meaningful rivalries, in playoff games, in postseason football. He still goes out as one of the most respected Hall of Fame offensive tackles that the NFL has ever seen, but he's with Cleveland the whole time. And I know that was a different era of Cleveland football, but I'm not convinced that we get much of an improvement if that's where whomever, Francis Mauigoa, Monroe Freeling, Spencer Fano, whoever ends up there, doesn't have to be an offensive lineman either. I'm not convinced that they get enough of a different version of the Cleveland Browns to justify or to make you feel good about ending up there. So I put a poll question up at Real OC Sports. I always love to hear from you at 877-353-0700. It's a bit of a childish would you rather. Would you rather be drafted in Spencer Fano's projected position, which a lot of people in the mock drafts have him going number 6 overall to the Cleveland Browns, especially since Francis Mauigoa, his most recent medicals showed a herniated disc in his back. Plenty of guys have played long careers with herniated discs, but it can make some people gun shy. Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock draft, he's sitting on the television in front of me right now, has Spencer Fano going number 6 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Would you rather see Spencer Fano end up there? If you're Spencer Fano, would you rather end up there, or would you rather go to a more consistent franchise, a more decorated franchise? Would you rather end up later in the draft and still in the first round, but playing for someone who's more reliable as a competitive team? To make it easy, I put it on the poll as, would you rather end up 27 to the 49ers, because it feels like they're going to take an offensive tackle, they're going to take an offensive lineman, or would you rather go number 6 to the Browns? There are obvious differences to the rookie pay scale, to the draft position, to the prestige of being drafted 6 overall versus number 27 overall. But when you factor in everything, and the money has to be part of the conversation, the prestige has to be part of the conversation, to be able to say top 10 NFL draft pick rather than just first-round NFL draft pick can mean a lot over the course of a career. The money's got to be the most important thing for pretty much everyone's job. But there's also the fulfillment of being part of competitive franchises. And by the way, I might be giving the 49ers too much credit because their window, their true Super Bowl window, even as a diehard fan, I think has closed. But I imagine they're going to be still cobbling together playoff runs for the next 4 or 5 years, even if it's not a sincere effort to make – I shouldn't say sincere effort. Even if it's not a realistic effort to get you to a Super Bowl. And by the way, there's other teams that have talked about potentially being landing spots. It could be number 8 to the Arizona Cardinals. The reason I didn't put 6 to the Browns or 8 to the Cardinals is because the Cardinals are the Western version of the Browns. We are never going to believe in them. You're never going to look at the Arizona Cardinals and say, that's where I want my favorite player to get drafted to. That's a spot where I could see a guy having a really, really good career. Even if individually you're capable of having a great career there, you don't believe that they're going to win Super Bowls. And much like in college football, much like in high school football, team success begets individual success and individual glory, right? Yes, you can be an all-pro and a pro bowler playing for a team that is not successful in the postseason, but there's a natural byproduct of the increased attention that the good teams get, and that's the players that are responsible for making them good teams get the individual accolades. And now contracts have those individual accolades written in as incentives. So, at Real OC Sports or 877-353-0700 for an easy, low-hanging fruit question of the day. Would you rather see Spencer Fano, or if you are Spencer Fano, and I'm talking, you're like, if you're Logan Fano, would you rather see Spencer Fano go number 6 overall to the Browns and get the bigger signing bonus, or go number 27 overall to the 49ers and play for a more respected and successful franchise? I don't want to just make the decision based on the short term. I don't want to just – and you don't get to make the decision, obviously. You go where you're drafted. But if you had a preference and you're still a first-round pick, which would you rather have? On the show today, we are going to have Roxy Bernstein in about 7 minutes. He was on the call for Mammoth Golden Knights in Game 2. He did a great job, as he always does. We'll talk to him about that and, of course, the upcoming Friday playoff debut on home ice for the Utah Mammoth as they're tied 1-1 in the series. We're going to talk with Gordy Chiesa. He's going to be here in studio with us for an hour. Lots to get to there. Alex Jensen, head Utah basketball coach, is going to join us as well. And Eric Weddle at 1 o'clock to talk what else? The first round of the NFL draft. A guy who had his name called on draft day and was, for his team, their first pick. When San Diego drafted him, they did not have a first-round pick that year. Weddle went at the top of the second round, and he was the first guy that the San Diego Chargers, his hometown team, decided to take off the board. The relationship changed, obviously, over the years with Weddle, but we're excited to have him on to talk what it feels like having your NFL dream come true. And I have asked him every year that I've been on radio to join us around draft time, and I've asked him to reiterate what that means and how it feels every year, and he has been gracious and kind in telling the story every time, and I will never get tired of it because a dream realized for a little kid, we could go out on any given Saturday in Utah this fall and see all those little gremlins running around with the oversized helmets and way too many wristbands on. And a bunch of those kids wish that they could hear their name called on draft day someday. And Weddle got to experience it. And Garrett Bowles got to experience it. And Jordan Gross got to experience it. And Starlo Tulele got to experience it. And Jalen Johnson and all these guys. And the list goes on and on and on. And you watched each of them become something great in college football and then go on to success at the NFL level. I will never be tired of dreams being realized and people telling the story of how it felt and how they made it happen. So we'll look forward to that with Eric Weddle coming up a little bit later. If you're wondering what the the pay scale difference actually looks like for the number 6 overall draft pick in this draft versus the number 27 overall draft pick. It is a significant difference. At number 6, remember, these are post Sam Bradford. These were put in collective bargaining because NFL vets were starting to get really bent out of shape that these rookies, wet behind the ears, have never played a down in the NFL, were getting these monster contracts, these monster signing bonuses, these insane guaranteed money situations that NFL veterans were like, well, I'm locked into my contract for another 5 years, and this kid is making more money than me, and he's never taken a snap. So they decided the best solution for this was to structure it out so that as the years go on, it does get slightly higher, but pick number 1, you know exactly how much money you are eligible for in your first contract. It is already delineated. You are slotted into your pay scale. Your agent matters for your second contract a heck of a lot more than your first contract. So number 6, if indeed Spencer Fano or maybe Caleb Loma or maybe Francis Mauigoa or maybe Monroe Freeling or maybe it'll be Ty Simpson, who knows? Whoever goes number 6, the total contract value of your rookie deal is $40 million. Your year 1 salary is $7.2 million. For number 27, the total value of your rookie contract is $18 million, and your year 1 salary is $3.3 million. So the overall difference is significant. $32 million gap between number 6 overall and number 27 overall. It feels like that is bigger than it should be. The year 1 salary for number 6 versus number 27 is double. It's a big difference. It is a monster difference. So it'd be unfair for me to tell you to make a determination on whether you think you'd rather see a guy go to a lower pick, better team or a higher pick, worse team, unless you know the real numbers. 1551 says more money and lower expectations in Cleveland. And that's look, if you can find a job in any field where you have a lot of money and not a lot of expectation from your bosses, kind of a win. Football players are not typically built that way. They're not wired to be like, well, yeah, give me the path of least resistance to my money. And the Fanos are not that way, certainly. But, man, the disparity between those contracts is significant enough that you probably say, yeah, I'll go play for a really crappy team for an extra $32 million. If it were a $3 or $4 million difference, maybe different. And by the way, if I were a quarterback, the conversation would be much different. If you're an offensive lineman, like scheme fit and things like that are a lot less important. Maybe Cleveland has different plans for Spencer Fano if they draft him at 6 than San Francisco would at 27 because there's just less priority put on those picks. The 49ers are probably more comfortable saying, like, yeah, we used the first-round pick on you, but we want you to be a guard. The Cleveland Browns, if they use number 6, they're going to be like, yeah, you better be a franchise tackle. And that's the other question I have for you that I put out there on the Twitter. And this one's a Twitter poll. What kind of career do we think Spencer Fano is going to have? Is he a multiple-time Pro Bowler? Is he a day 1 starter who then is a perennial starter? Is he a guy that, he plays, he's a spot starter, he's somebody who never lives up to the expectation, or is he a draft bust? So far, in the early goings, multiple-time Pro Bowler is the runaway answer. Half of you, at least, are giving it that credit. And when you talk to Spencer Fano or you hear Spencer Fano talk about who he tries to model his game after, it's Penei Sewell, the guy who's not much older than him, a guy who, this is insane. If you did not have a good perspective on just how significant, heavy, almost destiny-laden the Samoa pathway to the NFL is, Penei Sewell's dad and Spencer Fano's dad were classmates in Samoa growing up. And now, both of their sons are first-round draft picks in the NFL. And this is not like some Westlake, Austin, Texas, massive football factory school we're talking about here. This is a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean with a tiny population, and somehow two guys who ended up having kids had giant kids who separated, 5 years apart from one another, are both first-round draft picks playing the same position potentially in the NFL. That is wild. You could make a movie about it, and I'd be like, that's not realistic. Whoever wrote this movie is asking me to suspend reality and believe that this, population 100 school has generated two NFL dads in the same class. I don't think so. Anyway. NFL draft tonight. We have it right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I told you it was a jam-packed show today. I cannot wait to have this conversation. I was bouncing back and forth, and normally I stay on the local broadcast when I'm watching the Utah Mammoth, but when my guy Roxy Bernstein is on the national call, you know that I'm going to watch Roxy Bernstein on ESPN. It was Utah Mammoth in Vegas against the Golden Knights, trailing 1-0 in the series, and they got the win the other night to tie the series up 1-1. Roxy Bernstein was on the call. He joins us now to talk all things hockey Stanley Cup playoffs. Roxy, welcome. How are you, sir?
I'm great, OC. Nice. I appreciate you getting the ratings up for me there in Salt Lake City. It's tough competition when there's competing broadcasts.
I tell you what, though, Roxy, I have expressed my admiration for your versatility in the business many times. I will take every opportunity I can to do it because there are a lot of basketball guys who can do football, and there are baseball guys that can do football, and most of you in the play-by-play world have some blind spot for hockey, but not my guy Roxy Bernstein. You are excellent, even on what I think might be the toughest sport of them all to call.
They're all different, and the pacing is clearly different, Sean. Football, it's like 10 seconds of quick action, then there's a lull, right? Basketball is fast-paced, it's moving. Baseball's definitely got the most deliberate pace. Hockey, it's nonstop. You got to be locked in, guys hopping over the boards, who's coming on, who's coming off, and even at stoppages, okay, they're starting quickly. It's just the pacing is different, but the passion is there, and it's just there's nothing better than playoff hockey. And the environment in Vegas was great for games 1 and 2. It certainly was electric at the Fortress, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen at the Delta Center tomorrow night, Game 3, the first home playoff game for the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, I can't wait either. I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely bananas. I know that the ownership group has some plans for trying to make sure that the stadium experience, the arena experience, is elevated even beyond what it has been in the regular season. The hockey itself, what we saw at the end of Game 1 was the Vegas Knights being the Vegas Knights and saying, you know what, our advantage in this series is clearly our size, our physicality, our playoff hockey experience, and we're gonna bully this Mammoth team into playing our game of hockey, and they were able to come back and win Game 1 because of it. I was very curious what the response was going to be and whether Coach Bear and the Mammoth were going to figure out a way to not let that happen again in Game 2. And in the early goings, it was like, well, we'll see. It doesn't look too bad, but it doesn't look that great either. And about halfway through the first period, the Mammoth started to play their game, and obviously it translated to a victory. You were on the call. What did you see?
Yeah, that's the way I saw it too, Sean. It's like the Mammoth, I don't want to say they were a little timid, but when you're on the road in a playoff game in a visiting barn, it's loud, and the momentum that the home team feeds off of. And those first 8 to 10 minutes, Vegas was thriving off that. They came out with an early goal. They got the power play, and then when Utah killed it, that was a huge, I think, momentum swing back to the Mammoth because they were in danger of going down 2-0 after they already had that Mark Stone power play goal. And they settled in. They got to their game, and they learned from game one how to counter what Vegas was doing in game two. I thought Andre Turney and Bear and his staff did a good job of sticking to their game. And the game for Utah is speed. They are the faster team. That's not up for debate. And they had to find a way to utilize their speed in game two, and I think they did. Game one, Vegas clogged up the neutral zone. Utah had a hard time breaking through with guys like Gunther and Keller and Schmaltz and Cooley trying to use their speed to their advantage. They found a way to do it in game two. I'm curious to see the chess match. Okay, John Tortorella and Vegas are going to react and figure out how to kind of chop the game up and ugly it up because that's the way Vegas needs to play with their size. The more skill, the more speed, at least for me, from top to bottom, is with Utah, and they need to thrive on that. If it gets into a track meet, Sean, that's advantage Utah, and there's no way Vegas wants to do that.
If I had told you before the series started that we'd be through two games and the Keller and Logan Krause line and Nick Schmaltz line would be kind of underwhelming and had not generated points and not generated goals, but we still somehow won a game, would you have believed me?
I don't think wholeheartedly I would have believed you. How's that? Because you do need your depth pieces to win in the playoffs. You can't just rely on that top line. And the way Vegas game won, it wasn't because of Jack Eichel and Mark Stone. It was Colton Sissons. It was the depth guys that were the difference to me in game one. And in game two, for me, look, I think Logan Cooley is an emerging star. He is showing you he is a playoff-type player and understands the big moment and thrives in the big moment. And he certainly, to me, was the catalyst for Utah in game two. But you need to get the depth guys. I thought some of the Utah players really responded and played well in game two, and those depth guys, they didn't necessarily score, but they were noticeable and they were active. And that was the case. In game one, Ivan Barbashev was everywhere. Even though he didn't really factor into the scoring all that much, he did have, the empty netter. But his physicality was evident. And guys like Krause, I thought, delivered that in game two. I thought the fourth line really gave some energy as well to Utah. And that's what you need in the playoffs. It can't just be a top-heavy lineup. You're not going to go deep. You need to have that balance and depth, and guys have to embrace their role. That's what I saw from Utah in game two.
How do we handle game three? Roxy, we've never hosted a playoff game before in the NHL. What are we supposed to do? What's the dress code? What am I supposed to wear? Like, do I have to show up pregame? How's this going to work?
Yeah, all of the above, right? You got to show up pregame. You got to get ready to go. Wear a Utah Mammoth sweater. That's what you need to do this time of the year. And bring your energy, bring your passion, and be in your seat early, right? That's the other thing. Like a lot of times, okay, the drop of the puck, the building's not entirely full. Get there early. Don't miss anything. Get in there for the pregame hype. Watch the pregame skate to get you ready, and then you can go get your beverage of choice and your food of choice. But make sure you're in the seat because it is electric. And the team takes the ice for the first time, getting ready for the game. When they come out, it is going to be the roof may blow off the Delta Center. I've been in so many buildings for the playoffs, and I'll be in Anaheim on Sunday for Game 4 between the Oilers and the Ducks. But that is just the epitome of hockey fandom. It's just the energy level is going to rise, and you just feel it's definitely different this time of the year.
I don't know if you felt this way before the series started when no one had skated yet, but the Mammoth have a chance to win their first ever playoff series as a franchise. This Golden Knights matchup is one that they can actually get past, not in just single games, but they can win this series. Do you feel that way?
I do. I think they can win this series. Look, if you look at the regular season, Utah had more wins than Vegas did, even though Vegas is the Pacific Division champion, the Mammoth are the number one wild card. But the Mammoth had more wins than the Golden Knights did. And I know a lot of analysts around the NHL were calling the Pacific Division a pillow fight because it seemed like nobody wanted to win it. But Vegas got hot down the stretch with John Tortorella. And Game 2, that was the first regulation loss for the Golden Knights since Torts took over at the end of March. But the playoffs are a different animal. And now that Utah's had a taste of it, look, there are veteran guys. Ian Cole's won cups, right? You look around the Utah room. There is some playoff experience. Kevin Stenlund. It's not like they're devoid of that type of experience. But the key offensive guys hadn't been there before. Keller, Cooley. But they'd played games on the big stage before, and Vegas clearly has that pedigree. They won the Cup back in 2023. I think in a lot of ways that goes out the window now. Game 1, I think that Vegas took advantage of that. Utah figured some things out in Game 2. Now it shifts. The Mammoth have stolen home ice advantage away, and now you have to defend home ice. And if you can do that, if you can win your games at home, you're going to win this series. It wouldn't shock me at all. And I felt this way before the series, OC, that Utah could definitely win this series.
Incredible game last night between the Stars and the Wild. The Ducks got over on the Oilers. The Western Conference playoffs. Any surprises for you, or just something that's jumping out for you?
Nothing's really surprising. Look, maybe that how flat the Penguins have been and how Philly has just dominated that series, and I think it's indication that Sidney Crosby's definitely banged up. I don't even think he's close to 100%. But he's trying to battle through it. That's what you have to do this time of the year, and they have a lot of pride. And I would expect the Penguins to come out and throw everything they have at the Flyers in Game 4. But other than that, I really haven't been surprised by anything. I expected Colorado to breeze through against the Kings. Although I thought L.A., even though they didn't win Game 2, Sean, to me, for most of that game, they were the better team. They just didn't win it. Now they go home down 2-0. You allude to the game last night, the double overtime thriller in St. Paul, and it's just a heck of a series. Those teams are going to beat each other up. I don't see any way that doesn't go 7. I just think those teams are so evenly matched, and it's been amazing hockey to watch. And some of the other series, like how about the nastiness in the Tampa-Montreal series? That is just – it was a physical fight the other night, which you don't normally see those type of battles in the playoffs. Guys don't want to miss chunks of time and be in the penalty box. And you're having team pictures in the penalty box in a couple of series.
Already, yeah.
So far. And I expect the nastiness to get turned up a little bit now in the Utah-Vegas series. I don't think there's been pushing and shoving. You had teams coming together. But you haven't seen the same type of nastiness that you're seeing in the other series. At some point, that's going to change. And now that Utah's even the series, I expect a strong pushback from Vegas in Game 3, and I think the physicality, even though I think it's been extremely high. For example, Vegas had 51 hits that they were credited with in Game 1. That's 15 more than any game they had in the regular season. It gets cranked up as the series goes along, and I would expect some ugliness maybe to come in the next couple of games.
Well, that was one, I think, the keys of Game 2 is that, the Mammoth didn't get bullied around. It was 51 or 52 to 30 in Game 1.
Yeah.
And they were basically even on hits in Game 2, and that was something that the Mammoth absolutely had to step up and match the Golden Knights on. Even if they don't have the size necessarily to do it, I was happy to see them kind of close that gap.
Definitely. And they've had some players. Look, Krause is going to throw his weight around. He's a big physical guy. That's what he does. And I think that's why Andre Tourigny put him on that top line. When you have the skill of Keller and Schmaltz, you need to have some sandpaper on that line. And Krause, with his size, he has excelled playing along those two guys and has had a career season. And then Logan Cooley gets a lot of the credit, and deservedly so. He's been great in the first two games. Kyler Yamamoto has been a factor. Even though, he's 5'8", 190 pounds, whatever it is, he throws everything he's got at you. He plays with that grit and determination. And he was a big key for me also in game 2 with his presence out there for the Mammoth.
And I love, Gunther. Cooley is the one who got the goal on the rebound, but Gunther decided to pull his best Connor McDavid impersonation, and he just turned on the Jets, took the puck 190-plus feet, and created that rebound opportunity for Cooley. That's the kind of speed I need to see from the Mammoth moving forward.
And that's what they're capable of doing. And I think he caught Vegas off guard on that move, Sean. I think it was Rasmus Andersson who was the defenseman that was there. I don't think he knew that Gunther had that in him. He knows Gunther is quick and is fast and has a great stride and speed. But that extra gear, that boost that he got around him, I don't think he anticipated that. And then if you look, here comes Logan Cooley reading the play from the opposite wing, and Vegas lost sight of him. And it was Jack Eichel's responsibility defensively, and he lost him. And then Cooley's there to jam in the rebound, and that turns out to be the winner. And you can't have those slip-ups in the postseason. You make a mistake this time of the year, it ends up in the back of your net, and you can't have those type of brain cramps coming up.
All right, unfair question will be my last one here. We had Leo Messi in town last night playing Inter Miami, playing at RSL, and it was a big deal. It was a expensive ticket to get in. It was huge. Everyone showed up, sold out everything. And we had a conversation yesterday about, the opportunity to be there in the building when potentially the greatest of all time or one of the greatest of all time is there playing. And we've had opportunities to watch LeBron James play basketball. You have this unique seat in these sporting events. You already mentioned you're going to be calling Connor McDavid and the Oilers playing against the Ducks. Who is the best, and you have to think of all your sports here, who is the best individual talent you've gotten to call games for?
I watched, but I never got to call Michael Jordan, which would have been incredible to do. I would say it's Connor McDavid, to be honest with you. As great as some of the major league players and MLB that I've done over the years, you watch McDavid, he's just different. And the way he moves and the burst that he has, and he's doing it against his peers. It's not like he is this guy coming to play with a group of middle school kids, and he's just circling them and dominating and taking advantage of it because, he's the older veteran, understands. This guy, he's doing it to the best players in the world. And just a couple of weeks ago, I took my son to a game. They were playing, Edmonton was playing in San Jose. So I took him to the game with a couple of his buddies, and I looked over at my son and his friends, and their jaws hit the floor. Because McDavid had a hat trick. He had 5 points. They dominated the game. He just was toying with another professional team, and it was just incredible to watch, even with a superstar like Macklin Celebrini on the ice, who was phenomenal. But McDavid is just different. You watch him, he's just captivating. The way he moves, there's nobody like him in the game right now.
Your guy Macklin Celebrini might be that eventually if he keeps at this pace. But, man, I'm going to avoid talking about him right now because the Sharks are not in the playoffs this year.
Not.
Sooner than later, they're going to be a real problem for the Mammoth, but not today, not right now, Roxy.
But the Mammoth are in a great spot, right? In year 2, you make the playoffs. They're clearly a franchise that is ascending. And there's a few of them in the Western Conference. Look, we know Vegas is going to be good for years. Some of the other teams, clearly like Minnesota and Dallas, have a lot of talent, certainly Colorado. Colorado right now is the oldest team in the league. And at some point, that's going to catch up with them. As we know, Father Time is undefeated. But the 3 teams in the West that are clearly on the rise, that are going to be cup contenders for years, along with the Mammoth, because I do believe that Utah's in that spot, with the pipeline that they have and the talent of like Iginla and Desnoyers and Simashev coming, Anaheim and San Jose are right there with them, and those are going to be some rivalries, I think, for years to come with all the talent and the youth and speed these 3 franchises have.
Roxy, have a great call on Sunday. I appreciate your time as always. I have a deep, deep admiration for your skill in the business, and you're an even better person. So thank you, sir.
You got it, buddy. Anytime, OC. Hope to see you soon.
That is Roxy Bernstein. Give him any sport, he'll do a great job on it, even hockey. He was on the call for Game 2 when the Utah Mammoth got their first ever playoff win. We hope for playoff win number 2 on Friday night at the Delta Center. If you don't have tickets for it, no worries. Watch parties at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Craft food, craft cocktails, and during the Mammoth playoffs, signed gear to give away via raffle for every single game. So if you're not going to be there in a seat at the Delta Center, the next best thing will be a watch party at Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. And as always, tell him OC sent you. Gordy Chiesa is with us for the next hour. We will pick his brain on all things NBA playoffs because they're going on at the same time as the Stanley Cup playoffs are. We're spoiled right now. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Our friends over at Aladdin Industries bring you our conversation with Gordy Chiesa. We're lucky enough to have him for the next hour or so here on the Sean O'Connell Show. And then after Gordy will be Alex Jensen, Utah basketball head coach. So we are jam-packed. Weddle joins us in hour number 3. Plenty left to get to here. Gordy, welcome into the studio once again. How are you?
Sean, I'm doing well. Thank you.
If you're watching on YouTube, Gordy is wearing his sweater. Everyone always compliments this particular houndstooth plaid sweater. It's just a great look, Gordy.
I worry about you. I worry about you. No one cares about my sweater.
Hey,
or my
hold
scarf.
on. I would not mention it if it were not for the fact that people always text in and say, "Wow, Gordy's got swag again today."
You have some imagination, but thank you. Thanks for the kudos. I appreciate it, and so does my wife also.
All right. Well, whoever in the house has the best fashion sense deserves their credit.
No, thank you.
Let's talk about this. We'll start in the Western Conference. The playoff bracket as it shapes up right now. If you haven't been watching NBA playoffs because you've been too dialed in on the Stanley Cup playoffs or too dialed in on the NFL pre-draft process, I fully understand. Right now is a hard time to take in everything. Right now, Oklahoma City is up 2-0 on the Suns. OKC has looked pretty dominant in that one. The Lakers are up 2-0 on the Rockets. Nuggets Timberwolves is tied at a game apiece, and Spurs Trailblazers is tied at a game apiece. Let's start with that one because the Spurs are in a situation right now where they're managing the concussion, the injury of Victor Wembanyama. They're a young team that's on the rise. They're taking on another team that I don't think people have a lot of belief is going to end up deep in these Western Conference playoffs, but the Blazers managed to steal one.
Very much, and they did it because they really played so hard, and Scoot Henderson had an absolutely great game with his 31 points, and that was the difference maker. And the Trailblazers are a team on the rise, and that's very similar to the Jazz, who they're going to try to catch hopefully by next season. Where the Trailblazers, the year before, they were when they didn't make the playoffs, but they won 36 games. And this year they did make the playoffs, and now it's 1-1, and that he returned home to Rip City. The biggest factor in the game right now is Victor Wembanyama only played 12 minutes. Where Sean, he went down hard. He hit his face on that floor and his head. And it was really a very trying moment for everybody that enjoys watching him play. Now, he's in a protocol as far as concussion. So, which has certain criteria you have to meet by the team doctors and by the league doctor. So, the Spurs play Friday night versus the Trailblazers. He's on the trip right now. Sean, I'm assuming now that he won't pass the protocol and hold him out, but he'll play Game 4 on Sunday. Probably.
How different is it when you are in a game and you have to adjust to the absence of a Victor Wembanyama unexpectedly because he leaves after an injury versus when you are, given a couple days notice at least, hey guys, this game we're going to be without Victor. He's still in concussion protocol. I'm going to need the rest of you to step up. I imagine watching him go down and go out and trot into the locker room is something that has a huge effect mentally on the players, probably even on the coaches, and contributed in some way to Portland being able to steal that game. But now that the Spurs know Victor Wembanyama's potentially out, is it easier to adjust to?
Yes, it's easier. And that's more emotional. In other words, this is his teammates, his brothers. Suddenly one of your guys goes down with an injury, and at that moment you're not sure what it is, and it takes you X amount of minutes to regroup mentally to get back into the flow of it. In the meantime, the Trailblazers, who played a great game throughout the game, were able to hold off the Spurs. So now Luke Cornett, who did play well in replacement of Victor Wembanyama, he'll be the starter, and he'll do a good job for them as far as being a screener, a timely hustle player, does a good job defensively as far as closing out to the corner. He's not the same rim protector, and that was a big factor where Denny Avdia was penetrating minus Victor Wembanyama in the game. He's able to get in the paint and live there and make kick-out passes or rim attacks, and that was a factor in the game.
To drive that point home, the Spurs in that second game against the Portland Trailblazers, they blocked 5 shots. Portland blocked 11 shots. 5 shots is a single. That's just Victor Wembanyama's night in most nights.
That is correct. And that's what happens. It's so fractional. Just like you mentioned about hockey, every possession matters in the NFL, in the red zone. That's an understatement. Every possession does matter as far as execution. In basketball, it's the same thing. The under 5-minute mark of every playoff game, if the game is tight, meaning 5 points or less, you can't waste possessions, and you've got to get the ball up at the basket. Whether you miss it or not, it has to be a chance for an offensive rebound. And that's why the Portland Trailblazers were able to show a gritty victory on the road. Now, the Spurs will show their heart next game. So now that it's 1-1, the Spurs, I'm expecting, are going to bounce back. Stephen Castle is very good. DeAndre Fox is tremendous. Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, all these guys, Luke Cornett, the sixth man of the year, Keldon Johnson, they're going to respond. So it's going to be absolutely a tough game on Friday night. Whoever wins that game puts them up 2-1. It's really going to be a good series.
I asked you on Tuesday when we spoke about the sustainability of LeBron James dragging the Lakers to this level of success. They're up 2-0 on the Rockets, as I already mentioned. Houston is nearly a 10-point favorite in this coming game, which will be tomorrow. What's going to happen in that series?
Well, the first thing, I'm not a betting man, but I wouldn't bet against the Lakers, a 10-point underdog. They have a chemistry right now. Yes, they're missing Luka and they're missing some other guys as far as in the lineup. But what they have, though, is that unbelievable right now chemistry where the players are basically somewhat overachieving. So Austin Reeves is the other player that they're missing, but LeBron is the maestro of the whole thing. Marcus Smart did a good job guarding KD the other day. He was biting up on him, forcing KD, who was a little bit rusty off the injury, into 9 turnovers. And then Marcus Smart counters that by having a great offensive game with also LeBron and Luke Kennard, who's absolutely a knockdown, give me the hot sauce shooter. Here's LeBron right now at age 41, Sean, the first 2 games in this playoff series. 23.5 points per game, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, 48.6 field goal percentage, 42.9 from threes, and 1.5 steals in 39 minutes. So he has been spectacular. And also, they're getting good support from Rory Hachimura. He's done a good job as far as him making plays and timely open shots. So I expect the Rockets to win Game 3, but Game 4 is going to be the one where it could decide everything.
All right, we got plenty of playoffs to talk about, but a big announcement this morning. A.J. DeBonsa is staying with BYU. I'll explain. That's not fully false, okay? Reminder also, the 4th annual Funnel Cake Festival is back this weekend at Lagoon. We want to send you and your family. We got a 4-pack of tickets to give away during Topical Trivia coming up around 1:45. Get ready to sample the funnel cakes, the Fruity Fun funnel cake. That's Gordy's favorite. Tiramisu funnel cake. He also loves that one. Saturday 10 to 7, Sunday 10 to 6. Tickets are available at lagoonpark.com. Discount price right now, $83.95 each plus tax. No promo code is needed. I'm not lying. A.J. DeBonsa staying with BYU. Asterix will be explained next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Happy to be with you on a show that is brought to you today and every day by our friends down at Big Willie's. We're lucky enough to have Gordy Chiesa here in studio with us. And look, there's NBA playoffs to get to. I do want to talk about it, but we saw the tease on social media yesterday. A.J. DeBonsa said, big news coming tomorrow morning. I'm going to go live on my Instagram right after that. And A.J. DeBonsa is, to nobody's surprise, declaring for the NBA draft. He is a potential number 1 overall draft pick. Now, you heard my tease before we went to break. He did say he's going to remain enrolled at BYU because it's important to his family that he gets the degree. And look, I admire that. I think that's wonderful. There's no question that BYU will remain as attached to AJ as they can for his NBA career, that they will allow him to come back in off seasons and to take as many classes as he wants, that they will help him get his degree. That is important to the school. It is important to AJ's family. By the way, Max Hall, the BYU quarterback, who is one of the favorite villains of the rivalry for Utah fans, Max Hall just got his degree from BYU, like just barely now graduated. So congratulations to Max Hall for getting it done. I had no idea he had not already earned his degree from the university, but we got that announcement this week that he had. So good for him. I always do. We all dislike Max Hall for the, classless comments about Utah from his days in the rivalry. He's been through some stuff as an adult. He's made some mistakes as an adult. He had the addiction problems and stuff. And so the right thing to do is to root for the person to have success as a person. His association as a BYU quarterback in a rivalry matters very little compared to overcoming and making it successfully through rehab and now to getting his degree. So good job, Max Hall. A.J. DeBonsa, we will get that story from him at some point as well, that he has obtained his degree from Brigham Young University. But make no mistake, it was never in question. And Gordy's been telling you this the whole way. He's going to go to the draft. And, of course, he did, Gordy.
Here's the first question about that, Sean. A long time ago in your career, academically, I might add, what was your major in school?
I was.
What are you laughing about?
Because I should have done something that was a little bit more. Look, the plan was to go into federal law enforcement, and so I was going to go get a master's in psychology, and instead I was a psych major, soc minor, which is like very typical of the wannabe student athletes. They're easy degrees. So psych.
Psych. Okay.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Pseudoscience.
Yeah, pseudo. And look at you now, where you are right now.
Yes.
Using it every single day.
And I have parlayed that degree into this job, which makes very little sense to any of us. But
And Sean, in my illustrious career academically, illustrious, I was once a teacher.
Uh-huh. And
Right.
so what was your major?
Education.
Education. All right. See,
Yeah.
so you actually worked in your field.
And I was voted one time the worst ever student teacher in the history of New York State. Yeah, where I taught Chinese history.
Okay.
Yeah, Chinese history to juniors and seniors. And about that, where I had this jalopy car that only worked on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when I was in college, and all these sort of wealthy juniors and seniors with their mother and father's car had these unbelievable cars, and here's my junky car, student teaching, coming down into the parking lot. It was very, very sad. However, I did recover from them.
And look, you stayed in education. Now, coaching is a different type of education, but is, of course, education nonetheless. So you actually worked in your chosen field, Gordy.
Yes, I did. I'm really grateful. And speaking of chosen field, A.J. DeBonsa. All right, Sean's alluding to that. He's going back to school as far as taking classes. And remember, here's the benchmark. About 5 years ago, Stephen Curry, during the playoffs, they asked him one time, hey, Steph, in between road games, what do you do? And he said to the media scrum, he said, well, I'm studying tonight. And he said, what are you doing? I'm studying. What do you mean? He goes, yeah, I have to do a term paper online, and it's due tomorrow, and I'm finishing it tonight. So I'll be in my hotel room during a playoff road where I'm going to finish my term paper. It's due. I'm going to send it, obviously, online, and give it to Davidson College because I promised my mother that I would graduate. And then after that, about a year later, he graduated. He walked with the students online. It was absolutely perfect. And for Davidson College in North Carolina, you couldn't get anything better than that. With Steph Curry, with these younger people walking online with his cap and ground.
What a cool thing. And just like to zoom out, Steph Curry is worth something like $600 million between his NBA earnings and his Under Armour endorsements,
yeah.
right? Primarily Under Armour endorsements. He doesn't need a college degree, but the fact that he wants to follow through on a promise, that he wants to achieve a goal just for the sake of achieving a goal is awesome and is something that we should talk about and we should celebrate. And obviously we do. We do report on those things. But for so many people, the education is a means to an end. And I'm grateful to have grown up in a house where my grandfather was an educator. My parents had a really deep appreciation of education and always taught us that education is never wasted, that it's not about getting the piece of paper so you can get the higher paying job. It's about actually doing the learning. And it's cool to hear that was the case for Steph Curry, who, like I said, doesn't need – he's never going to have to apply for a job. Steph Curry's not taking an internship anywhere, but he still wanted to get the degree. That's really neat.
And that's with AJ right now with BYU. And if you're BYU, you're ecstatic that he wants to continue a relationship with the university, and I think it's really great. Speaking of now talent, oh, by the way, he'll be the first pick of the draft. Absolutely number one. He is a major talent that's going to go probably to a lesser team where he's going to start and be a huge factor as far as them, that new team, whoever drafts him as far as the lottery guards, which is May 10th, which ironically shown is Mother's Day. That's when teams find out what it should be. Hopefully that the Jazz would ever get him. It would be a miracle in a great way, and that it would help the Jazz accelerate their process, which is right now going to be in play. Let's add to that. What does he do well, A.J. Dubance? What he does is that he creates shots for himself at any moment against good defense. He can go over the top of the Guardian. He makes plays. He's willing to play without the ball, and he can rebound in traffic and bust out dribble to create a tempo rhythm. Defensively, he's long and rangy, and he tries to play defense. Like all young guys, the physicality is the factor, especially in playoff games. Sean's alluding earlier about the hockey situations where it's all based on physicality, and that's the better teams in the NBA. They play physical defense with technique. So with AJ and all the other guys in the high draft picks, they're going to happen in the draft. Learning defense, being physical with technique is absolutely critical for your development. So good for AJ. He's going to be draft number one. Number two, Sean, should be Darren Peterson. 3 might be, Sean, Caleb Wilson, who's, I know it sounds weird. He's an unbelievable talent. He's vastly almost like underrated because he broke his wrist. So people haven't seen him play, minus the personnel people, since February. And then Boozer. You could flip-flap all the time. And number 5, Sean, should be Darius Acuff, who's a major talent from Arkansas, a point guard who's got absolute quickness and jets.
And, of course, when we get into that 4th, 5th, whatever pick, that's kind of where we expect. That's the highest likelihood for the Utah Jazz to end up in that neighborhood. They do have an 11.5% chance to have the number 1 overall pick. So if you're a gambling man or woman and you like those odds, maybe the Utah Jazz do get A.J. Dubance.
Speaking of gambling, Sean, I'm gonna test your knowledge of music.
Oh, dear.
All right. Who sang the song "The Gambler"?
Kenny Rogers?
That's correct. See, Sean, nothing gets past you. This is why you're successful, and I'm a starving artist.
I don't know if that's how I would characterize our relative places in the world, but we'll go with what Gordy says because we defer to his wisdom. All right, we got to take another break. Hour 2 begins next with Gordy Chiesa. Like I said, on Thursdays, we keep him for as long as we can. Don't go anywhere. We'll get back into this playoff bracket in the NBA. We've only touched on a couple of the series so far. We'll get into the Eastern Conference. I don't think there's an NBA champion this year in the Eastern Conference. Does Gordy agree or disagree? We'll get to that in 3 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Gordy Chiesa still hanging out with us. Alex Jensen in about 20 minutes here on the show. All right, I mentioned before the break, I don't see an NBA champion emerging from the Eastern Conference. I think this year's Larry O'Brien gets hoisted by somebody in the West, whether that be the Thunder or the Spurs. I could see the Nuggets doing it, maybe even the Lakers, which would cement LeBron James. I think that would change the GOAT debate in basketball more than anything so far has. if LeBron were somehow, and I think it's unlikely, if he were somehow able to drag the Lakers to a championship at age 41, then you would have to alter your calculus a little bit on his career versus Michael Jordan's career. And I don't even think that's the most important debate to have, but it's a foregone conclusion in my mind that Michael stays number one in most people's minds. That would be one of the only things that could happen in modern basketball that might draw some more people over to LeBron's side.
Yes, it would. However, Michael Jordan's hard to beat out. Let's refresh everyone's memory. 6 straight championships, 6 times MVP in the finals, which is absolutely hard to do. And then the 2 years of baseball where he it was so much about him scrutiny. You know, he's so famous that you can't actually be any moment of your life basically normal. And so he took an absence for about a year and a half and played baseball, and he came back to the Chicago Bulls. All right, so Sean's alluding to he thinks that the winners are going to come out of the West. All right, I'm going to offer a slightly different viewpoint.
Okay.
I think it's going to be an upset this year.
Ooh.
That the winner's going to come from the East, and it's going to be the Celtics.
All right.
That's just me saying it. And hit some metrics about, Sean, you decide, and all listeners right now, driving in the car at I-15, for the last 7 years, there's been 7 different NBA champions. 2019, Raptors. 2020, Lakers in the bubble. 2021, Bucks. 2022, Warriors. 2023, Nuggets. 2024, Celtics. 2025, Thunder. Add to that, for 7 straight seasons, the defending NBA champion didn't advance past the second playoff round. They lost 7 straight years in the conference semifinals, including last year when the Celtics lost to the Knickerbockers in the second round. So that's the metrics. Is it true this year? That's the beauty of the NBA playoffs. You think you know nothing. So just say, besides being a Jazz fan in this market, you're a fan of other franchises. With your team, the NBA playoffs is the attributes you need to win a championship for an individual team. They are: 1, you need star power; 2, speed; 3, toughness; 4, health; 5, versatility; 6, discipline; and 7, luck. Those are the 7 attributes that the NBA champion will have, most of them. And that's the blueprint. So again, when you analyze your team, besides the first one, star power, absolutely. So in the fourth quarter of an NBA playoff game, whether home or away, the question is philosophically, oh, by the way, are our 3 best players better than our rivals' best players in the fourth quarter, especially under the 5-minute mark, where it's 1 for all for one, where our guys have to, on both sides of the ball, guard their position, play help defense, and make baskets or draw fouls against rugged physicality defense, and that can we get consecutive stops to win by 1 or 2? And that's why star power is so important. Remember now, let's point about this. Oh, by the way, is that the opponent's going to double team one of your star players to get the ball out of their hands. So, which means then that someone else on your team, your favorite team, will probably get an open corner look, 3-point shot. And can that person make that shot? And Sean's alluding to about the Lakers earlier, a few minutes ago, about the Lakers and LeBron James. They have right now Luke Kennard. So Luke Kennard could be the biggest benefactor of LeBron James and Austin Reeves when he comes back, and Luka for the open 3-point shot. And so the Lakers could be a factor in the West besides the Thunder, who are absolutely great, 1 through 10. Also, the Nuggets, who are vastly underrated, and all the other teams, and the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Spurs, they're all bunched up, and we think that eventually that it's going to come down to who can make plays.
So number 4 on that list Gordy just gave you was health, right?
Yeah, health, yes.
Health is what I'm watching in the West the rest of the way, because the Lakers are already compromised on health. Now the Spurs have to worry about Wembanyama, and of course we hope that ends up not being a major thing. But I mean, especially with San Antonio, it's one of the more exciting teams in this playoff. And if they don't get to stay healthy, can they overcome it, especially as a young squad? And then, I mean, we haven't talked enough about the defending champs, the Oklahoma City Thunder. You already talked about the trend. It's been a new team year after year after year after year. Are the Thunder the most likely that we've seen in that stretch to be able to pull it off, a repeat?
Yes, because they're so deep. They have absolutely quality depth. And speaking about health, right now got hurt is Jalen Williams. In the third quarter, he hurt himself with his left hamstring injury, so they're going to hold him out. But the Thunder are one of the few teams that have absolutely quality depth. And as long as Shea is there as a difference maker, no matter what happens, that star power with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he can create magic on the court, and that they were able to overcome any injuries that they have right now. So it does happen. The intensity is going to kick up 3 notches every round. So Shea's going to lead that group. So will Cason Wallace off the bench. Alex Caruso, Chet Holmgren is tremendous. Isaiah Hartenstein's a really good banger inside. And now they have Jarrett McCain. And they had so many other guys that just play hard and with skill. And besides adding also, I left out purposely defensively, Lou Dort. So if that's going to happen, a back-to-back champion, it would be probably the Thunder. The last time it happened was the Golden State Warriors. And this shows you how it's hard to win. Winning is so hard in the playoffs because there's so many variables, and the defense is fierce. That's why, Sean, in playoff basketball, there's so many missed shots because it's the first time for a lot of young players that they're playing under the influence of physicality of trying to guard them. And that's why you have to be so strong mentally, but also upper body strength to absorb the contact and to finish through to get either a mid-range jump shot. Most times in playoff games, the defense runs you off the three-point line, so the shot of choice is the opposite of the NBA season, is the mid-range game, not the three-point shot.
Gordy, who's going to emerge from this Denver-Minnesota series, and whoever that is, are they a potential threat to win the West?
Yes. First thing is that they don't like it, Sean. They're absolutely arch rivals. They do not like each other. So right now, Jaden McDaniels, last game when the T-Wolves beat the Nuggets, he said that the whole Nuggets team are bad defenders.
We played that sound.
Yeah, okay.
Just dismissing everybody on the whole team.
There you go. All right, so, Sean, if I am the Nuggets, I am absolutely taking it personal. All right, so now it gets interesting. The game is going to be tonight in the Twin City, and the question is philosophically, Jamal Murray, who's a tremendous player, he's struggling from the floor. He's only shooting 27.3% from threes, getting back to what I'm talking about, where they run you off the line into a middle game. Even though he's getting to the foul line, making his foul shots, he's only shooting overall in this series 38.3%. Here's the counter of that. As far as ascending also, Anthony Edwards, a first-team All-NBA performer, is only shooting from three-point range 25%, and from the field 38.6%. So the question is philosophically, who can make baskets now? Is it Julius Randle? Is it Christian Brown? Is it Nikola Jokic, who's played tremendous for them? But Jokic right now from three-point range is 3 for 14. Last game, former Jazz man Rudy Gobert did a yeoman's job of just slowing down Jokic in the fourth quarter, where Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic shot 2 for 12, and that was the difference. Now those guys right now, Sean, are thinking about that last fourth quarter and that opening quarter tonight. They'll be ready to roll.
Let's go back to your Celtics prediction here for a second.
Okay.
Why the Celtics and not the number 1 seed out of the East, the Pistons?
Experience. Yeah, experience. Yeah. I like the Pistons. They're really a fun story where 2 years ago, they were absolutely inept. And now, this past season, they're the first seed, and they won 60 games, which is really tremendous. However, what we learned about in playoff basketball, experience does matter. It does. Absolutely. And so playing through physicality and making baskets out of nothing. I call that chaos scoring. In most playoff games, is that your set offense, even though it's commendable during a regular season, it doesn't happen. So now you've got to score off, we call it concepts, where can you get the ball into the painted area, whether it's direct pass or off the dribble? Can you penetrate and either lob pass, finish in traffic, turnaround jump shot in mid-range, or kick it out for the three-point shot? And I like the Celtics doing that because the Celtics have a whole bunch of guys that can score points. Again, for the listeners, here's the Celtics starting lineup. Peyton Pritchard, who's a three-point shooter, and he's got some toughness. He's in the lane. Derek White, one of the best two-way players in the NBA. Jaylen Brown, all-NBA player. Jason Tatum, which is really one of the most fun stories in the NBA, off that devastating injury last May, is now playing tremendous in the playoffs. And then they go Nikola Vucevic as their center. Then off the bench, they go Sam Hauser, who's a knockdown shooter, and Baylor Shireman, who can make shots also. And so Luke Garza and Cato from Utah State. So I like their team. I like the way they play defense, even though I know it's going to be it's even as good as they are, it's still going to be tough. As far as most series should go, Sean, 6 or 7 games, because you know why? The other guys are good also. There's nothing like the playoff basketball. It's so intense in that the players that are successful are the ones that can stay focused mentally, and that they shoot forward, not backwards. So a lot of times in basketball, especially at a younger age, where players take a shot and miss it, and for the next 5 possessions, they're thinking about the missed shot, versus in the NBA playoffs, the shots miss, it's over, get back on defense and try to get the ball back, and more importantly, your next shot you're going to make. And that's why it's so paramount is to play forward, not backwards. Also, Sean, one more thing about the playoffs. Winning is ugly. Winning is ugly. Oh, how come the guys can't run their offense? And the reason why is because the defense, again, is so fierce. So most games in playoff basketball are ugly. But, Sean, we love being ugly.
Well, winning ugly, for me, in regardless of the sport, is the mark of really good teams. If you can win when it's pretty, well, you're a front runner. Anyone can do that. You have to be able to win when a game gets mucky, when somebody gets hurt, when it gets physical. Sometimes in the NBA especially, that can be a little bit slow because it's free throws after free throws after free throws, but you got to be able to win in those conditions. Gordy, what's your list today?
My list today is the NBA career playoff leaders in most made three-point shots. So career-made playoff threes. I cut it to 12 players, and everyone knows these guys' names. Sean, three-point shot. It started in the 1980 playoff season. So this is the 46th season of the NBA playoff three. Quickly, the corner three is 22 feet. The NBA arc three extended is 23 and 9 inches. And in Sean, I know your favorite ABA days where you saw on video recently, the NBA three-point shot, the ABA three-point shot is 25 feet. And Sean, you love seeing that red, white, and blue ball.
That's a great ball.
That's exactly right. It really is. So that's 25 feet. Here's the quick list. All-time leaders of most made career playoff threes. Number 12, Kobe Bryant, 292. Number 11, J.R. Smith, 294. Number 10, Sean, right on point, Jason Tatum, 295. Number 9, Danny Green, 315. Number 8, Reggie Miller, 320. Number 7, Manu Ginobili, who's one of the all-time great player performers, with 324. Number 6, he's going to play against the Lakers, Kevin Durant, 367. Number 5, I had the pleasure to coach this guy at Seattle Sonics, and he was an unbelievable. He's the second greatest ever shooter of all time. Ray Allen, 385. Number 4, he plays for the Cavaliers. He's Donovan Mitchell's sidekick in the backcourt. James Harden, 441, made career threes. Number 3, LeBron James, third all-time, with 483 triples in the playoffs. Number 2, for the Golden State Warriors, formerly Now he plays for the Dallas Mavericks. Klay Thompson at 501. The number one greatest ever three-point shooter as far as career makes in playoff history is Steph Curry with 650 made threes in the playoffs. Quickly, what about in Jazz basketball? Who's the greatest ever career made three-point shots in Jazz playoff history? That is Donovan Mitchell. In 39 games, he made 129. And the second greatest ever three-point shooter in playoff history for the Jazz is Brian Russell, who made 126.
Wow.
So, thus, Sean, that's my list of today.
I would not have put Donovan Mitchell or Brian Russell at the top of Jazz history in the playoffs. Interesting.
Yes.
You learn something new every day. That's why we bring Gordy in and his encyclopedic knowledge of all things NBA basketball. Gordy, who are your Jets going to draft?
Sean, I'm a tortured Sean. I'm tortured soul.
Every time I mention the Jets, you see Gordy's his complexion, his countenance go from being one of positivity and sharing wisdom and knowledge, and then it just becomes exactly that, tortured.
You're right, Sean. I am. I'm tortured. The Jets. If you're a Jet fan, like I am, it's like there's never been a team that's so, Sean, incompetent. Really, is that the word I'm using?
It's a great word for them. Yes.
They don't get it right. Like for Sean, 60 years. Like it's hard to do that long.
They've got the number 2 pick. A lot of people think that's going to be David Bailey, the defensive end from Texas Tech. We'll see, but they'll probably find a way to even screw that up.
But Sean, how about tonight with the Utah game? Utah players, Utes.
Because of Francis Mauigoa, who was kind of the other guy that a lot of people talked about as the top tackle in the draft, he got a medical report back that maybe he's got a herniated disc, which should be repairable and fine, but teams aren't going to be as patient with it potentially. So there seems to be some consensus reached that Spencer Fano is likely to be the first tackle taken. The first team that really needs a tackle are the Cleveland Browns, but they have 2 first-round picks. So there's a possibility they could use that on a receiver. And then if they don't really love any of the tackles, they could move back up from 24, where their second pick is, to try to get a tackle kind of in the middle rounds. And Fano could be available there. So I think you get 2 first-rounders. I think both Caleb Lomu and Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano both go, I think, in the first round. But we'll see. Every time there's a consensus reached and every time it's like, oh, yeah, everyone knows this is what's going to happen, we're wrong. Every time.
That's an understatement. That's also the NBA draft. Also, Sean, gamemanship by a lot of times teams.
Sure.
Where they say things publicly, but it's really what? They don't mean it.
Yeah. The Browns could be like, oh, we're worried about that back injury for Mauigoa. So then they could just go grab him where they always plan on grabbing him with nobody else being worried about it. Anyway, we'll watch the draft. We'll have it right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. Gordy, you're the man. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
The head coach of Runnin' Utes basketball, Alex Jensen, with the transfer portal settled, joins us next. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is the Sean O'Connell Show, your home of the best insight of your Utes. Let's get back to OC from the Murdoch Chevrolet studio of ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Thursday edition of the Sean O'Connell Show. It is NFL Draft Day. We are your home of football here in the state of Utah, but we're also your home of Runnin' Utes basketball, and we're lucky enough today to talk with the head coach, Alex Jensen, kind enough to give us a few minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Coach, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. It's a fun time of year. You got NBA playoffs, you got NHL playoffs, you got the NFL draft, as I just mentioned tonight. Of course, your head down, focused on all things Runnin' Utes, but have you been able to enjoy any of the sports calendar outside of your own basketball world?
I was going to say, nothing's more exciting than the transfer portal. But no, I've had time to. I still have friends that coach in the NBA. But now that the transfer portal's ending, I'll be able to watch. I think a little bit more of the playoffs. Like you said, it's an exciting time.
Well, let's focus on your team. And, of course, the transfer portal is the biggest story in college basketball right now for you, for your squad, and really for everyone in the Big 12 and beyond. Starting with the big picture, if you don't mind, the transfer portal opened, and I think it was like 60% of scholarship players with eligibility decided to dip their toes in those waters. And, of course, that free agency free-for-all is something that the adults in the room are going to have to try to figure out. But the system right now is such that, athletes can explore this consistently every year if they want to. And that means you and your coaching staff are in a pretty serious reevaluation period on your roster, on who wants to stay, on who you want to stay, on who else you might be able to bring in. And when the numbers are that overwhelming, what is it like for you in practice to try and narrow it down?
Well, it's not easy for sure. But, last time at this year, I was finishing up in Dallas. I was still coaching with the Mavericks when the portal hit. So I think this year around it's been, I don't want to use the word easier, but, having, the year and the lead up to prep, I think myself and the staff, we did a good job, kind of preparing throughout the year. So it's not anything you can be ready for completely, but I think, just knowing the space and the players and, yeah, it was, long days, but I think the work paid off that we did throughout the year.
How big a difference does it make this time around that, your staff was fully in place? If I'm not mistaken, last year, not only were you kind of transitioning, but you're still figuring out who's going to be joining you at the University of Utah, who's going to be helping you along. Now that you guys are firmly in place and we're able to do it together the whole way, how much a difference did that make?
Oh, huge difference. We kind of joke about it now because there was a lot of times where I'd be on the phone right before a game last year, and then right after the game I'd get on the call, and nobody had, I think, permanently moved to Utah. And, a handful of my staff was kind of a mixture of the NBA and Europe and college. So I think all of us know nothing like going through it for a year, but knowing the college space better. So, yeah, no, it's much better. Just being around, settled, and kind of having a frame of reference on how it works and the direction we want to go.
As far as that direction, is there like a strategy on a whiteboard somewhere in your offices that says, we want European guys? I need somebody who's, 7 feet tall. Is there boxes that you're looking to check specifically, or is it let's evaluate every player who's out there?
No, it's interesting because it's, there's the pool of players is so huge, right? You have freshmen, the portal, which is, 2,000-3,000 players. And then you have, Europe's, I think, really exploded in the last couple of years because of the money. But, no, I don't think, we, hopefully I think when we're established and we get it going, I think we can have a mixture of all of them. But, we just kind of go with our, the connections that myself and the staff have. I think that always helps if there's a relationship with an agent or something like that. But, no, I don't think we, concentrate on any specific pool of players. But I think, the one thing we always talk about is, it seems like an easy thing, but they need to want to be here, right? Like it has to, like they need to want to come and play at the University of Utah. And it hopefully it means something to them like it does to me and everybody else.
I think
that's on our staff and team.
Sure. I think the first couple of conversations we have, one of the things I was most interested in is like, what's the identity of running Utes basketball going to be with Alex Jensen as the head coach? And then, of course, the extension to that question is, well, how do you establish that? And so I'm asking the same thing because now, there's so much roster turnover in modern day college basketball, and the same is true for you up there on the Hill. Has that answer potentially evolved over the last year since, we were welcoming you to the job officially for the first time? Is your idea of team identity and how you establish it, is it changing or has it changed?
No, I think it's actually probably got condensed more. It's like I said, they've got to want to be here. They have to enjoy playing it. And I think, growing up in Utah, I think, BYU, Utah, the Jazz, or any team, like if you look back, it's always kind of been the tough, overachieving team. Like I think the teams have been successful, or the guys that, whether it was in the pros or college, they came in, they weren't necessarily the biggest names or ranked really high, but I think that's what, I grew up watching and loving, and I think the fans here enjoy. So I think that kind of fits into what I want, but just, guys and players that love to compete and play and overachieve. They might not be the 7-footer. They might be 6'9", but it's maybe the 6'7" kid that makes sense. So, but yeah, anybody over 7 feet, there's usually a cost premium.
Yeah, we were looking at it. It fascinates me because it's a numbers game when you talk about these big bodies. Obviously, numbers game in so many ways, and according to Google, which Google's never wrong, right? Like, there's only roughly 3,000 7-footers on planet Earth at any given time, and it's like, well, okay. And how many of those are 18 to 22 years old? And how many of those have ever picked up a basketball? Probably most at this point. And then how much do those guys want to be paid to add another number into the game? So a lot easier for the fan to sit around and say, well, where's our 7-foot, center? We need that, when it's just not as available as we wish it was.
No, it's not. And, and it's interesting, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. But I say, the money that's out there everywhere, I think outweighs the talent at a pretty big ratio, if that makes sense. So it becomes pretty interesting, especially with big guys, because there's not a lot of them. So there's more, competition for them, and they can end up getting, I don't know the other word to use other than maybe a premium. Yeah. So
Alex Jensen,
definitely not a lot of them.
Alex Jensen, our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking transfer portal, Utah basketball, a little bit of everything in that world right now. So the newcomers that you have incoming from the transfer portal, we've been kind of announcing them as they are reported and as they are signed. What do you like most about like an Alec Anagbada?
I think just, I'm kind of not sure exactly what I can say or not, but you know what, the guys, good people, like they love to play. And I think they're, through the conversations that it's a place they want to be, and they met the staff. And like I said, they want to be here. And it's not, obviously the money comes into it, but that's not the number one reason that they're coming to the University of Utah. But just, I look at it this way, like when I watch players, like guys I would love to play with. And I think that makes it easier for picking those guys. And, most of the guys, I think all of them we have they're guys that I'd like to play with if I was still playing, even though I'm not.
When you were evaluating how this last season went, and I know it's not probably the exact way you envisioned it, there is patience in the fan base and in the leadership at the university that I've talked to. knowing that this is going to be, a gradual process and it's going to take some serious effort. But when you evaluated the basketball you guys were able to play this past season, was there a serious deficiency that you said, all right, as we overhaul this roster, I need to make sure that X, fill in that blank, is something that we are better at or that we can do?
Well, it was a disappointing year, a tough year, but I think it was one where we learned a lot. And, I think I've been out of college for 15 years, and it's a different game. And you look at you don't try to copy necessarily other teams, but you always want to be, like we were talking about with the 7-footers, bigger, longer, faster. But, we had a few injuries, but, I think just the way we balance the team, but I don't think, rebounding is always a huge thing. But yeah, I think it's, like I said, I think it's kind of condensed even more to the player we want. And, I don't think there's necessarily any one thing. It's funny because it changes. We'll probably have pretty much a new roster like a lot of teams, which is, not ideal, but, just guys that fit each other and fit us well. And I think that'll help promote the success of it all. But, yeah, I don't think there's any one thing because, the portal happens so fast and you're looking for everything, shooting, size. So you try to do your best.
As you're trying to bring in, the right kind of guys, a lot of the people that we have seen, you kick the tires on, and even the guys that are coming in, there's like this little asterisk for some of them at the bottom of the sheet that says, this person's going to explore the NBA draft potentially, but we expect them to still be at Utah. And even guys that, departed, KD's going to Kansas, but he's going to explore the NBA draft. What does that actually look like for you and for your staff? Is there anything, is there a role that you play during that process as they're trying to figure out where they belong in true pro basketball circles, or should I stay in college? Or do you just wait and see? Like, how is it in real time handled by a Utah coaching staff when guys are 1 foot in the NBA draft process, but also if I'm going to stay in college, I'm going to be at Utah?
Well, no, I think a lot goes into it. I think that was a big reason I wanted to have a GM, because those are conversations with the agent. And I think the one thing you have to make sure of that coming and playing in college, they're excited for it, and it's not like a fallback thing, if that makes sense. Whereas if you make the NBA, it's great, but they're excited to come play in college, and instead of the other way around, it's like, well, if I don't make the NBA, it's like my fallback thing. I think it's you try to find guys that are in that situation that want to go to college, and if the NBA happens, then it's like a bonus. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's just the nature of the business, and things are moving fast, and you try to anticipate the likelihood of that as much as you can.
As the business of college basketball becomes exactly that, more of a business, and it's more of a professional endeavor even for the players with contract negotiations and effectively salaries and things like that. Do you find that the players themselves, the people, are more professional about how they conduct themselves? Like, are 19 and 20-year-old University of Utah basketball players more like the guys you knew in the pros than you were as a college athlete?
It kind of varies because, like you said, there's not a lot of there's very few regulations on it all. And it's an interesting space with the agents. Like, you have everything from a parent or an uncle or to a big agency that has NBA guys, but it varies quite a bit. And I think, it's hard. I think, it's difficult for kids because, like, there's an advantage of having an agent. And hopefully, that space will be regulated soon. But, yeah, it varies. You get all sorts. Like, you get, obviously people that are trying to get every penny. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum where they're really professional and they want a good situation that fits them and their player. And it's all about relationships still. But yeah, no, there's a wide wide spectrum of the professionalism.
On the basketball front, when it comes to like making sure they're at rehab when they're supposed to be, making sure they're at shoot around and at practice on time or even early, because if you're on time, you're late for some coaches. Is the professionalism growing in that respect relative to maybe what it was in college basketball the last time you touched down there?
I think it depends on the guy, the players you get. When there's money involved, in the NBA, there's a fine structure, and a lot of times the guy will, the fine can be so much, but he might make so much money where it doesn't affect him. And I think, when the money comes into it, you'd still try to not necessarily have control, but hopefully you have the relationship with them. But it gets tricky. Because money changes a player or some of them. And I think it's in a transition right now because college is caught in somewhere between. They don't want to call it pay to play, but that's exactly what it is. So it's a strange time because it's you want to treat them like professionals, but the rules kind of don't let you. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is. I mean, it's a professional game now, even though whoever doesn't want to call it that, it is.
Well, and that's why I'm so curious about this, right? Because my understanding of professional athletics, and I was never involved in a team sport, but it's like you better conduct yourself like a pro. If you want to keep earning that paycheck and you want to keep, getting on the floor in the case of basketball, you better conduct yourself like a pro. We're paying you like a pro. You better handle it like a pro. Of course, in the NBA, like you mentioned, there are collectively bargained structural fines that if you don't show up to this workout or if you don't do this, it's already laid out how the punishment will affect you. And maybe it doesn't affect you because you have enough money that it doesn't or whatever. But in basketball, again, there's just not regulations. And so I'm really curious how you, who's been in the pro ranks and knows exactly what, Rudy Gobert had to do to become what Rudy Gobert has become and how professional he had to be in that. And obviously there was a money aspect to that as well. But now you're doing it with college kids who don't have the same level of structure. And I'm really fascinated by how that works in your program.
Well, I don't think, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You do your best. You do your best to make it work. But, I mean, there's and I still, like everybody else, I'm in the same spot and I had a lot more questions when I took the job, and there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. And I think people are working, the powers that be are working on hopefully a few, I think, easy easy guardrails to put in. But you're right. Like it's interesting. A kid, we can sign him a week before the portal closes. You can sign everything and you have the contract, and then he can still go back into the portal. And it is interesting. It is interesting. A lot of it doesn't make sense right now, but I know hopefully everybody's working through it, and hopefully we get those rules. But it's definitely advantageous to the players and their agents, but it's a difficult time, I think, for all of us.
What have you learned about yourself in the last year that maybe you didn't know before you dove in as the head coach of your alma mater? I've been lucky to have been a head coach and been around a lot of good coaches, and I think the thing is, it's I remember, I don't think things have expanded. It's kind of condensed down to it was one thing I learned from Coach Majerus. Like, keep it simple, and there's few things you look for. And and I think being back at my alma mater, I go back to we played Arizona, and they were number one at the time, and I don't think we filled half the Huntsman, and that hit me. To be honest, it upset me, and it kind of, I guess it drives me more to fill that place, because that's what, for decades that place has been. So that's my goal. And obviously that's associated with winning, but you have 3 or 4 generations of season ticket holders that come to games, and there's memories there of
So, yeah, no, I think being back, I mean, I always knew it, but like going through and experiencing it at my alma mater, I was really driven to fill the Huntsman Center again.
How much have you and Morgan Scally crossed paths so far? Maybe you had a chance to commiserate about what the transfer portal has done to your respective sports or whatever.
I've been able to, we've had a few conversations. When I got here, it was wild. It was one of those things, one of the many things on my list that I wanted to do right away, but didn't get to it. Like when, Kyle was here, now it's Morgan. But no, I've been able to have a few really good conversations with Morgan and I admire what they've done in football over the last couple of decades and keep it rolling. It's something that, we want to, emulate, where it's, you're a kind of a program that's has to be reckoned with every year. But no, we've had a few more conversations, and I love to, pick his brain. I know football and basketball is a little different, but I've asked him a lot of questions about how he approaches the portal for sure.
Coach, these are the types of things I don't like to talk about on this show, but I feel like it's part of my job that I have to ask you. The financial support that comes into a program, the revenue share, and then the NIL opportunities are a large determinant now of what your roster is going to look like. And I love what I'm seeing on paper from the guys that are coming in and going to be part of this roster this year. But I have to ask if you're getting the support that you were promised or that you need in order to maximize Utah basketball's competitiveness and eventually return to the glory that you were once part of as a player.
Yeah, no, I think, it's not, I don't think any one person or one thing, but I think there's been a disconnect with the community in the program over years, and it's kind of built. But that's the last year I think we've done a good job. And President Randall's been great. He's committed, which is great to have the president of the university with all the things he has to do to be committed. And I think I think that's the one thing I knew before I took the job, and since I've been here, I think there's a lot of people that want to do what they can to make the program successful, and had a lot of good conversations. And I can say we're in a much better place than we were a year ago as a program. And I'm excited. And you could always, right? It's interesting now because you could always use more money, but I think we're at a place where we can be really competitive in the Big 12.
Do you have a favorite NFL team? Will you be paying attention to their draft pick tonight in round one?
I don't. See, that's the nice thing about growing up in Salt Lake is I can be the hater, or I can always be the root against somebody. But you know what? It's funny because I've never played football. I mean, other than at the park, but I'm fascinated with. I've been lucky to hear some coaches speak in the NBA and some players, and it's funny enough. I use a lot of football analogies. So yeah, I have players and coaches that I love.
Well,
I admire.
We'll welcome you on the 49ers bandwagon anytime you want, Coach. That's my team. So I'll make room for you.
Well, yeah. As soon as they win 8 games or more, I'm there.
I love it, Coach. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate you giving us some time today. Good luck with everything the rest of the way in this off season, and obviously we'll be checking in soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Alex Jensen, Runnin' Utes head basketball coach. The transfer portal for your Runnin' Utes team is, I think it's treated them well this year. And I shouldn't say treated them well. They've done a good job in the transfer portal. It's not like they were just gifted a bunch of things. Alec Anagbata, German forward, shoots the three well, 6'8", good size. TJ Birch helped Wright State win the Horizon League in the regular season and their tournament title as well. He was the Defensive Player of the Year in the Horizon League. We talked about Tyson Chapman, another good shooter, transferred from Ohio State. He was at one point the top-ranked recruit out of the state of Minnesota. Jackson Holcomb, who's coming from UVU. You've got a couple return missionaries, Jackson Johnson, former Alta Hawk, David Katoa, The Katoa name has done good things for Utah athletics. The former Layton and Utah Prep guy. And then the early signees from November, Styles Clemens, Zadi Labaki, and we already talked about some of the other individuals that have committed, started. The Israeli cat, what's his name? Noam Yaakov. Looking forward to his I think on paper at least, it looks like a better, more balanced, and perhaps deeper roster than what you had last year. But, of course, we got to see what it actually looks like. Big thanks to Alex Jensen for joining us. So much left to get to on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's number one sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
You're tuned to the Sean O'Connell Show from the Murdoch Chevrolet studio of ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
All right, Eric Weddle is going to join us to talk draft in about 5 minutes on the Sean O'Connell Show. Charles Clinton from Tawana Vista is joining us now. We actually have a free round of golf to give away as part of our Festival of Tees, powered by the Utah Golf Association and brought to you by Mountain Home Services. But let's talk some Tawana Vista. Charles, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hi, wonderful. We've got our first tournament out there today, the Kamikaze. It's an interesting tournament if you haven't ever heard of that. Kamikaze is a four-person scramble we do out here, and it's kind of like cross-country golf. You're not playing the golf course the regular way. For example, the first tee, you tee off on the driving range, and you go to green number 10. So it's kind of a crazy, fun tournament. It kind of kicks the season off for us. We do a four-person. Later in the summer, we do a three-person, and in the fall, we do a two-person kamikaze, all on different crazy kamikaze courses, we call them. So.
All right, wow. So just kind of mixing it up and giving the regular golfer something new out there at Tawana Vista in Wendover.
Yep.
Well, what other tournaments do you have coming up besides those kamikazes?
Well, we've got a couple of big ones. This upcoming Monday and Tuesday is the first casino event, RPM Series, and it's a one-man scramble going on. They have a whole schedule of them, two-person scrambles, four-person couples tournament, and you can sign up for those and register at wendoverfun.com. And then our big flagship event is in June 18th and 19th. It's a two-man best ball, over $15,000 added money. Best tournament you're going to have, $200 entry fee. You get a $100 tee prize, so you're coming out in good shape there. 2 rounds with cart, range balls, everything. And we'll start taking sign-ups out here at Tawana Vista the middle of May on that one.
You got a beautiful desert landscape, some wildlife on the course. The holes are challenging, and you've got partnerships with the casinos and hotels out there, right?
Yeah, this is a great place, especially if you can get out during the week when it's less crowded. I mean, we can take twosomes a lot of the time and even singles, and you can get out here and get a package where you stay the night and then a discounted golf pass. You just buy that with the casinos there. Come out and enjoy a day at Tawana Vista, play golf, and then hit the tables at night and enjoy a nice meal at one of the restaurants.
Charles, appreciate you stopping by again and giving us some more perspective on everything Tawana Vista has to offer. Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you. Have a good one.
Tawana Vista. And you know what? Before you head out there, go to You Into Golf. Brought to you by Worldwide Golf. You Into Golf, the best place to get the custom-fitted clubs. If you're just looking for a new pair of golf spikes, if you need a new putter, whatever it is, You Into Golf can get you taken care of. New bag, new clothes, new clubs, just a ball marker. You know what? If all you need is something small, go into You Into Golf, and you're going to find yourself something really good. You Into Golf by Worldwide Golf will get you set up for your trip out to Tawana Vista. And you know what? We're going to give away a free round of golf powered by Mountain Home Services and the Utah Golf Association in our Festival of Tees. 877-353-0700. Gordy Chiesa was in earlier. He gave me a surprise stat in his list of the day. The all-time leading three-point shooter in Utah Jazz playoff history. Important distinction there. All-time leader in playoff threes in a Utah Jazz uniform. 877-353-0700 for a round of golf at Tawana Vista out in Wendover. And when you play Tawana Vista, they give you a buffet certificate to use at Rainbow, Montego Bay, or Peppermill after your round. So a win-win-win, all right? Eric Weddle joins us next to talk NFL Draft. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Sean O'Connell Show. It is NFL Draft Day. You can listen to the first round right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. And you know what? We talk a lot of sports with a lot of people. Most of those people have not heard their name called in an NFL draft. But our next guest, all the way back in 2007, was the number 37 overall pick and the San Diego Chargers' first pick of that draft. His name, of course, is Eric Weddle, the Utah football legend. A-Dub, welcome back to the show. How are you?
What's up, my brother? Doing great. A lot of exciting days and ahead for this weekend for all the fans out there that want to see who their team picks and how they upgrade, and obviously the players seeing where their new home is for the next 4 to 5 years is always the uncertainty and the excitement all rolled in one.
Do you remember how you were feeling heading into draft day or in draft days back in 2007?
Yeah, I mean, I remember it pretty vividly. I don't remember a lot of things. Maybe that's more my doing than anything else. But, yeah, I remember all my family and friends were at the house. I remember going golfing in the morning with my dad, early morning round, knowing that the first round was going to be super long, and getting back around the fourth pick of the draft, third or fourth pick, and waiting around 6.5 hours. I think the first round was the longest first round in the history of the combine. And I think they changed the timing of it after that draft, which would have been nice the year before. But yeah, and then just the waiting game, and towards the end of the first round, I remember there were a couple teams that potentially could have taken me, where the Patriots picked Brandon Merriweather, and then obviously the Chargers picking Buster Davis at 30. And when those two picks passed, kind of like, all right, recentering, and then looking at the board. And I think from picks 40 to 50, I think there were 5 teams in that range where they had said we would take you if I was there. So we had a pretty good idea in the second round that I was going to be going off shortly, and then everything crazy happened at pick 37.
The Chicago Bears were the beneficiaries. The Chargers traded up to get Eric Weddle and ended up having a nice little career there in the NFL, for those of you who didn't get to watch it. So this year we've got a really interesting draft where it seems like a foregone conclusion that quarterback number 1, and then there's a lot of questions about, what position is valued most in this first round, what teams are going to try to move up, especially teams with multiple first-round draft picks, if they're going to stay where they're at, if they're going to package those and try to climb. I have always said I think that there's eventually a future for Eric Weddle as an NFL GM or somehow in an NFL personnel department. From a philosophical standpoint, right, if you're in a draft like this one, how are you approaching – I mean, obviously team need would factor in here. How are you approaching a draft like this where there's not a lot of consensus on who the best players are?
Well, I think the perception of this draft is maybe not as talented or as deep just because of the quarterbacks or lack thereof from a group, right? You got Mendoza, presumably the number 1 overall pick. Now, in prior drafts, he probably wouldn't even be a first-round pick. So it's just interesting to see how it all works out, how the chips fall. And then Ty Simpson from Alabama is probably the only other guy that could go in the first round. So usually you base it off the talent of the quarterbacks, and then everything works its way off of that. So it's a little down in that sense. But I think is a really deep draft with offensive linemen, receivers. Now, do I think there's a true number 1 Calvin Johnson, Jamar Chase type receiver? No, but I still think there's about 3 to 5 that could go in the first round, and I think 7 offensive linemen are going to go in the first round tonight. So when I'm looking at my team and I'm debating on like a Love or an edge rusher or Love and a lineman that are very similar in grades, I'm always going to go with the O-line, D-line, with the impact, because you can find certain positions throughout the draft and have a huge impact. But those studs at those premier positions are hard to find.
So I'm glad you mentioned Jeremiah Love, because like we've heard the conversation for 2 decades now about NFL running backs and whether it's a devalued position or whether guys like Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey and some of these individuals have highlighted the fact that when you have someone who's truly special, when you have an outlier, it's absolutely not a devalued position. These are MVP candidate type players in the NFL, and they play a running back position where a lot of people, third round guy you can plug and play. But is Jeremiah Love an outlier from what you've seen from him? Is he a guy that we can put in that rarefied air with, like, well, the 2 guys I just mentioned, with the Derrick Henry, with the Christian McCaffrey, with the Saquon Barkley, et cetera?
I don't. Not that maybe he can't. I just think that those are the anomalies. Think of how dynamic and productive the kid last year was. Drawing a blank for the Raiders, but Genty, and look at the adjustment he had last year, and it's a whole different ball game. And if you're a running back, there's only so much you can do when the guys around you aren't up to the level that you need to create lanes and cutbacks and have an adequate passing game so the run can feed out the pass. So I don't think so. I think those guys are, generational. Every decade you may see one. You could say maybe Jamar Gibbs in recent history would fall in line. But he eased his way into it. His first couple years in the league, he was never a bell cow out the gate. He was a third down running back, and then second year, and then third year, and then finally took over from Montgomery. So, do I think he's an every down back? Yes. Do I think he's extremely talented? Yes. But I'm just philosophically, I'm not drafting a running back never in the top 5. For every talented guy like Love, there's only one Adrian Peterson and or Derrick Henry. But Derrick Henry went in the 20s, I believe, right? Or where did? Can't remember where Derrick Henry got drafted. But I don't know. I obviously think he's a really good player, but I do think it's hard for running backs to be that MVP type player right out the gate. And when they do become that, then you're forced to pay them, which most teams aren't going to be paying their running backs.
Derrick Henry was a second rounder, 45th overall.
Yeah, I knew it. I mean, obviously I didn't know it was second round, but I knew it was late first. And it just goes back to you can find running backs, right? Like the days of a running back that is the leading rusher in the league that leads you to a Super Bowl it's not the case anymore, right? You build your team through the quarterback, through the weapons on the perimeter, obviously scheme, philosophy, culture, all that, and then defensively. Running back is not very high on the priority list of how you want to build your team.
Getting back to the offensive line, obviously Utah's got 2 guys that are potential first-round picks headed into this draft who play that position, and they play the premium position of offensive tackle. And we've seen, I've probably read every mock, every article about every projection, and we've seen Spencer Fano start the process as the Outland Trophy winner, as tackle number 1, and then as the weeks progressed and the conversation progressed, you saw him as low as 4 on some people's boards, tackle number 4. And then most of the consensus now seems to be back that, like, no, he'll be the first tackle taken. It'll be Cleveland pulling him off the board. And that highlights how absurd the publishing is with all this types of stuff. But when you watch Spencer Fano, let's say that, the Cleveland Browns are like, hey, Weddle, we need an emergency GM. You get to make our pick. Is that where you're going?
Holy smokes! Of course, I would love to have Spencer on my team. I don't know the roster configuration. Where is our biggest need? Where do I have everyone else graded compared to Spencer? And listen, his traits are just elite, and it's going to be able to you can easily envision him in the NFL being productive, high-level, Pro Bowler, All-Pro
at either tackle or guard. And people are saying, well, if you move him to guard, like, yeah, I know some incredible guards. Nelson comes to mind, Marshall Yonda, who are Hall of Fame type guys. Like, yeah, would I would I pick him anywhere in the first round if he's going to end up being that? You bet your tail I will. So I really don't buy into guards. Don't go that high. I think if he's elite, that will be a starter out the gate and will play 10 years, you're worth a first-round pick to me, especially a premier position that protects the quarterback or gets after the quarterback. So I've seen the same things anywhere from 6 to the 20s. When the first one goes, I think the lineman, when the first one goes, you're going to see a run on the lineman go, right? Because those teams that are in need of it don't want to be left out. So you can see trades happen. You can see movement. If that happens with Cleveland, you could see hopefully it's Spencer. But if not, his name will get called quickly after that.
Cleveland's in a situation. I think there's 4 or 5 teams that have multiple first-round draft picks. The Cowboys have a couple. The Giants have a couple. Cleveland's got a couple. Cleveland's at 6 and at 24, and their offensive line need heavy. They also need receivers, and this draft is good for both. And there's some disagreement whether the offensive linemen are more elite in this first round or whether the receivers are more elite in this first round. So I don't know why I'm talking so much about the Browns. It's only because Fano is projected by a lot of people to go there. But if you got 6 and you've got 24, I think I know your answer to this. You're using 6 for a lineman, 24 for a receiver, or vice versa?
No. I'm going lineman. I think the linemen are much deeper and more talented over the course of your projecting for the future. I see really good receivers. I don't see special receivers, if I'm being honest. And I'm not drafting a guy in the top 15 at receiver if I don't see all-pro special type talent. Yeah, you have those outliers like the Nakuas and the Mont St. Brown was in the second round. Those happen, but those are the outliers, right? Like top-tier talent, and there's obviously busts that happen every year, but historically, the Jamar Chases, the Jeffersons, the Calvin Johnsons, like these guys, they get drafted high because they are elite special talents, and it translates. So some have injuries, some are undersized. So I don't know. I'm going lineman if I'm debating between the two, and I'm going those defensive players, the Reese, the Styles, the Bailey, the Caleb Downs. Like those guys are cornerstone defenders that will be on your roster for the next 10 years. I'm
really fascinated by the Sonny Styles conversation because he is obviously a mega athlete and he's a really good football player. I don't think he's like a future Hall of Fame football player despite his athleticism. It reminds me of, what's his first name? Isaiah Simmons, the kid from Clemson a few years ago, who was built exactly like this and had freak measurables exactly like this. And he has not popped in the NFL the way that obviously his draft position expected him to. So, I mean, I hear Sonny Styles being given like, oh, he could be a Fred Warner type player. It's like Fred Warner's game is not predicated on him being the best athlete on the field. That's not why Fred Warner is such a great player. I worry more that Sonny Styles is Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, you do. There's some points to that. When Gage and I went out to Ohio State a few weeks back, and Sonny was there, and I actually got to spend about 20 minutes just talking one-on-one with him. His coaches brought him over to me, and we're just chatting and talk about like a rock star of from a man standpoint, like the character. Really, like I think that has increased his value when you're dealing with guys, the unknown per se. And I do like, man, he is a big human being. Not like, he's a muscle wise, but he's tall. Like, I don't know what his exact measurements, but I think he's closer to 6'5" than he is 6'2" or 6'3". I mean, he's a giant, and I almost think like he's an edge rusher. If I'm being honest, and if I'm projecting that, even though he played off ball and he was productive, I just think he could be a Swiss Army knife. Now, none of these guys, like, are they going to be Hall of Fame? Like, we can't really project that. But I look at it as like this. If the guy's going to come in, be a productive NFL starter who has a ceiling that maybe is a Pro Bowl, All-Pro player if he does everything correctly and works his butt off, he has character, he is an extension of your vision and culture, like, that's worth it for me, right? Like, I'm happy with that. I think that's a home run. And if they end up being these all-world generational type players, then that's icing on the cake. But you got to have a bunch of guys that buy into the culture, that are good people, good guys, that are ballers, that are coachable, and I think he aligns with all those characteristics, and I think that's why he's going to go high. Obviously, he's really talented, but I think those other characteristics have helped him through the draft process.
How many NFL GMs do you think are as dialed on character as an important trait as you are? Like, I mean, again, I believe your future at some point is doing personnel management, maybe on a college roster, maybe on an NFL roster. I'm making your plans for you, but
I love it.
But, like, that's who you are. You care about character. You judge people on character, and yes, talent is important, but you're a guy who you're not going to be as impressed by talent as you are by character. How many NFL GMs are the same?
Well, I think the bad organizations probably don't think too much into that. They're more into analytics. They're more into numbers and height, weight, strength, speed, explosive, all this dumb stuff at the end of the day that really doesn't equate to how do they assimilate into a team? How do they buy into the culture? How will they engage and interact with the teammates? Are they coachable? Are they good teammates? Will they compete? Will they look out for each other? Like, those things matter. I really believe that. And you look at the successful teams across the board, that's what they emphasize, right? Like, you get into the NFL, right? Like, the top 1% are like difference makers in the sense that, like, they're just better than everyone else at their position. But the rest of the 90%, you want guys that you can trust. You want guys that are going to buy in and be about the team and not about, like, myself. Yeah, you got to individually, you got to think about being the best version of myself, so ultimately the team has success, but it can never be more about yourself than the team. And so trying to figure that out through the process and having an importance, like, if the guy is a complete dickhead, but he is the number one talented best player in the draft, I'm not taking him, because eventually he's going to break the locker room. He's going to have issues when it comes to contract time, like all this other headaches that at the end of the day, like, it's just not worth it. Like, you got to build a team, and no one person is going to be the difference between winning a championship or not. And you never want that one person to be bigger than the culture or the team.
You put out a tweet about your own future that, you know, you're going to stay at Rancho Bernardo. You're not leaving when Gage leaves. And you know, people have asked about it. What was the impetus for this? Is everyone harassing you and just, like, assuming that is your plan? Why did you feel a need to address this publicly?
Well, it's just like, you know, I'm very happy and content in what I'm doing right now. And yeah, have I had opportunities? Every year I get asked to coach or different type of roles, whether it's college or NFL. But what people don't understand, well, people that know me, you know me, like, what comes first in my life?
It's family.
My family. So am I just going to say, hey, Silver and Camry, you're going to be a junior in high school, and Camry, you're going to be an incoming freshman, and hey, Dad's going to leave you guys and go work somewhere else where you guys are going to stay here in high school? Like, that's just not even logical. It's not a reality. I don't even entertain it because it's just not something that will ever happen. So I'm hearing it a bunch in San Diego. I'm hearing it from families and kids through other people that, oh, Eric's going to leave. This is why we're not coming to his high school. And it's like, hold on, guys. That really was the basis of it, and to just remind people that this is who I am. I'm happy. What is it? Is it humbling? And does it feel good? Like people want me to come help them? Yeah, but it's just not a reality at this point until my kids are done with high school.
Last thing before we let you go, and I've avoided talking about this because I don't like the soap opera stuff. It's like, especially when it comes to people's marriages and personal life, it feels icky. And because it's, families are broken up over these things. But the Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini stuff, once again, is in the headlines. On draft day, he's skipping the draft. They announced it yesterday before more tabloid reports came out. And the NFL has its share of scandals in locker rooms and stuff all the time. It's actually not all that common for the head coach of a franchise, especially a respected franchise, to be the focus of something like this. And Vrabel, of course, is a former player, has kind of that as well, his reputation as a former player. How is this being handled in the Patriots locker room if your head coach is now the distraction?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to talk about this, right? Like, who am I here to sit here and judge what someone else is doing in their personal life, right? Like, I know what I try to do. Am I perfect? No. Do I make mistakes? Of course. So at the end of the day, people need to understand, like, he didn't do anything wrong per se for his job. And is it bad media? Of course. Is it sharing a bad light to the New England Patriots? Of course. And he's got to deal with that. Ultimately, you got to answer to your family and your wife on whatever had happened. Okay. But as a player, listen, a lot of, that's just not uncommon. Okay. And unfortunately, you wish it was uncommon, but it's not. So if I was on the Patriots and all this stuff's going on, do I look at him differently? Yeah, but at the end of the day, my job is to be the best player, to lead this team, and Vrabel's my head coach. So if he's still my head coach, then I'm going to listen to him and go to work. So I don't know. It's obviously a distraction, and they got to figure that out. But you have to have some type of maturity about it and understand, I don't need a head coach to get me ready for a game. I don't need a head coach to motivate me and this, that, and the other. I need a guy that just corrals the team, keeps us going in the right direction, leads us. Now, yeah, is his leadership in question a little bit by his out-the-field actions? A little bit, but, hey, you're a football coach, so go coach the team. What you do on the outside is your own doing, and you got to answer to that. And then, obviously, the team. Now, it will be interesting if there's any evidence that something went on the facility, like at facility grounds, whether that place or other places, then, that's a whole other issue. But I don't know. Obviously, I don't agree with it. People that know me, but also I understand that I got a job to do, and I don't guys have a lot of stuff going on outside the building. And at the end of the day, I just try to be there for teammates, to be a helping hand for whatever they need, but I'm not going to sit here and throw stones at them because that's just not my place.
The Chargers, the Rams, the Ravens, all going to be drafting over the next 3 days. Whose draft are you most fascinated by of the teams you played for?
Oh, wow. Rams at 13 is very interesting. They have so many different choices that they could do. If they highly covet someone, they could trade up. They can pick whoever lands to them at 13. They can trade back and get another, maybe a second-round pick, third-round pick. So that's a prime spot. Chargers as well. I think they're picking at, what are they picking, 20s? Somewhere around there.
Chargers have 22.
Yeah. So I think they've got to get a difference maker on the perimeter, whether they trade up or trade. They need some talent on the perimeter. They got their 2 tackles coming back, so I don't feel like offensive line's a need. in those emphasis. So what difference maker is there? Obviously determines that. And the Ravens, I think, are at 14 or 15, and same thing. I know they lost some linemen, so they're definitely in the right prime spot of grabbing one of those linemen. And they're always looking for corners and edge rushers. So be on the lookout for those guys as well.
That is Eric Weddle, the Utah football legend, and in my mind, the future NFL Hall of Famer. Love you, dude. Thanks for your time, as always.
Love you, bro.
Head coach of the Rancho Bernardo Broncos, by the way, for the foreseeable future. Don't get it twisted if you're living down there in Poway, California, or the greater San Diego area. And, it's I think that some people just don't understand, like, his commitment to making sure he maximizes the experience of all of his children. It's not just his son. Gage is the most prominent of the Weddle children from a public perspective, obviously, but that's not how parents view their kids. Eric is not the guy. He's got 3 daughters and 1 son, okay? Oldest daughter has already made her announcement on where she's going to school, and it's not the University of Utah, all right? Every one of us hopes that that Gage will come play for the University of Utah. He's getting recruiting visits to Ohio State and Georgia, people. So just mitigate your expectations with that in mind.
And by the way, Michigan, too, who has a certain former head coach of Utah.
Yes. By the way, people with very strong
it's going to be
familial ties are now at Michigan. And look, like, Gage is going to make a good decision. He's a kid with an unbelievable head on his shoulders, especially given how prominent he is and how he's being talked about. And Eric and Chanel have done a really great job with their kids. But he's not going to be like, all right, well, because Gage is my most important kid, because he's following my footsteps and he's doing my football thing, I'm going to do whatever makes the most sense for him with, no regard for the 2 younger daughters.
Well, also,
it's just not how he is.
Yeah, also speaking to that, him being that family man that he is, that like way better than I do, but he's been very genuine about talking about that too. So someone like me feels like I know him that way. You gotta realize too that behind the scenes and all that, it's not just Weddle making that decision.
That's right.
He's got a partner. He's got his wife who also has an important say in that too.
And also, there's an age factor here. He's 40 years old, okay? So when he is 46-ish, he's going to be an empty nester. His kids will be out of the house. 46 as a time to start in earnest your second career, your NFL career, your college coaching career, whatever, that's still very young. So, like, he doesn't have to be impatient. Oh, and on top of that, he made a lot of money in the NFL. So he doesn't have to do these things for financial reasons. All of that put together factors into why Eric Weddle is, if he says he's staying, or he says at least right now he plans on staying, then that's what he's going to do.
When he says in the tweet, for at least the next 6 years. So that gives, if anyone's going to get antsy about it, 6 years from now, they can start getting antsy about it again.
So what really needs to happen, okay, is if you are if you're hoping that Gage Weddle comes to Utah, and I guess there's probably a lot of BYU fans who feel the same way because they're recruiting him too. They were the second school to give Gage an offer, and that's where his older sister is going to school. If you really want Eric Weddle to be a coach and Gage Weddle to be a player at the University of Utah, you got to recruit his wife and his 2 younger daughters to want to come do their high school experience in the state of Utah. You got to convince Chanel that, like, hey, we've got the best whatever soccer program for your youngest daughter at Skyline High School or something. That's the only thing that's going to get them out of there. Anyway, big thanks to Weddle. Always love checking in with him. He is a great man. All right, the Daily Dump is coming next. It'll be a short one, and then we're going to give away a family 4-pack to Lagoon for their Funnel Cake Festival, all before the show is done in 23 minutes. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792 FM, The Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They will handle almost all of your home maintenance needs. They could take care of that leaky faucet, the toilet that won't stop running, and your furnace, your air conditioner, your swamp cooler, your vent cleaning. Go to valleyplumbing.com, make an appointment right there online. You don't even have to talk to anybody. The truck with the duck takes care of you. All right. This local story and related national story. All right. Our guy, Andy B. Larson, mentioned yesterday. He is a real RSL fan. Okay. I know that he was a sports journalist. He's now out of sports, but he was like a real RSL fan, a real one. And he took exception to the fact that last night on Messi Day, there was Leo Messi gear being sold down at America First Field. That the RSL team store on the South End wasn't even open on like the biggest night in the ballpark's history. I don't really feel any type of way about that because it's kind of a one-off. It's a once-in-a-lifetime for the fans. A lot of people bought tickets exclusively to see the GOAT, and they got to see him. So whatever. But it got me thinking about, like, how appropriate is it that, you know, away teams have merchandise sold at your home team stadium? And that's in any other scenario, if it's not like that once in a... The team was sending the message from the beginning of this announcement that, like, hey, we want you to support RSL, but we know that a lot of you are going to be here because of Messi. They put up special bleachers because the demand was going to be higher because of Messi. All right? It was a $500 per ticket get-in price because of Messi. So that's different. And then I saw this. This is a national story. And, James, you're going to have to answer for this because you're the Red Sox fan around here.
Oh, boy, this is upsetting.
There's currently at Fenway Park in the Red Sox team store. There's currently a Yankees section. You can go buy Yankees gear at Fenway Park. And it started with them just selling greatest rivalry in baseball gear. They had T-shirts with both logos. They had records. They had hats that have like sort of a bat skull and crossbones with Yankees on one side and Red Sox on the other. But now they just straight up sell Yankees memorabilia, including like commemorative stuff that you hang on your office wall of all the Yankees championships. It's not even just apparel because you're the Yankee fan who forgot to bring your Yankee hat. It's like, hey, do you want a commemorative home plate that lists every championship year for the New York Yankees? That should be sold online and in Yankees stores and maybe even in your general baseball. Like if there was a Dick's Sporting Goods in Utah that had that, I'd be like, weird. I don't know how many Yankee fans we got. But the Red Sox selling it is blasphemy.
It really is, OC. Like, honestly, the only place for Yankees gear in Fenway Park, I mean, with the reluctant acceptance of Yankees fans coming to visit, is the bathroom or the dumpster. That's honestly the only place that it's appropriate to have that, let alone selling it in your store. And I get the rivalry, you know, trying to monetize, hey, we're the greatest rivalry, and I get having Yankees logos on that sort of thing. It's the crazy fan in me is like, I still don't think I'd want to buy that because it's got a Yankees logo on it, but I probably would think about it because it is about the rivalry. Yeah, it's
Utah,
wild.
if we go up to the Red Zone store and Utah is selling a Holy War shirt or a Holy War hat
with both logos
it's
on
got,
it, or a helmet of for both of them.
Yeah, like I'm buying that. I'm like, cool, yeah, that's fine. Even if it's like two players facing off and one of them is in crimson and the other one is in royal blue, I'm like, fine, that's acceptable. If then they also added a selection of BYU hats and BYU clothing, I would be like, who's in charge? Fire this person.
Yeah.
It's just
so
unconscionable.
wrong.
If you go down to the BYU bookstore that Barstool and Dave Portnoy rated the best bookstore in America, and you find Utah gear, there's drum and feather stuff in there. Riots in Provo, and that is the appropriate reaction. Your rival, your actual rival, and Yankees Red Sox is one of the top billing, most intense rivalries, most meaningful rivalries.
Longest standing
in the history of sports. It's crazy. It's disgusting. I don't like it. I would have saved it for the airing of grievances, but I'm out tomorrow, so
yeah. It's a terrible thing. Going back to the local thing with that Andy Larson brought to many people's attention on Twitter, I don't think I agree with you for in that specific circumstance. Go ahead and sell Inter Miami gear, particularly Lionel Messi jerseys in the RSL team store at the stadium. But when you have that many people, you knew you were going to have to bring in extra seats, like you said. Why do you close one of your team
that
stores?
One doesn't make sense.
And maybe it was a space thing, but that's more upsetting to me than probably Lionel Messi jerseys being sold in whatever team stores that were open at America First Field. Like that's a miss there. You get how much more merch you might have been able to sell Inter Miami Messi jerseys or RSL, hopefully ton of RSL gear if you had all your stores open, right? With that many more people visiting your stadium than you've had all season and maybe in a long time, like maybe ever, like that's a miss.
Remember how we talked so much about you don't want to be the guy to follow the guy when Nick Saban was retiring at Alabama? And Kalen DeBoer had this amazing short run at the University of Washington, and he's the guy who got the job, and all of us were just like, ooh, man, that's tough. That's a tough act to follow.
All of us around here were like, love that guy, but, man, I don't know about that situation.
And then he lost 2 games out of the first 3, and everyone in Bama was just like, fire him!
We knew it!
Get rid of him!
We knew that soft West Coast guy was
he's from the Midwest! You can't have it. Well, it's all working out well for Kalen DeBoer. He just signed an extension that will keep him at Alabama through 2033. January 31st, 2033 extends him and gives him a raise. He's now making $12.5 million per season. And it's effectively only a 2-year extension. But the money, the raise goes across the entirety of those years. So he's making a lot of dough, and he did make a college football playoff. So they're 8-4 against top 25 teams, though. But that's good enough, even at Alabama, for a $12.5 million per year salary.
I'm happy for Kalen DeBoer. I want him to be successful, even at Alabama, at a place that I a lot of people who aren't Alabama fans root against, right? I was that impressed with him at Washington. He seems like a really good, nice guy too. So I want him to be successful there. I don't think he's earned that. I don't think that's a good move by Alabama at this moment. Like, he missed the playoff his first year, had a respectable year almost anywhere else. He goes 8-4, 9-3, whatever, winning season still. And given that it's always really tough to follow a legend, that's a pretty good season. Then he makes the playoff, but then squanders a 17-point lead in the playoff to a so-so Oklahoma team. And that tells you, you know what? Make him the highest paid coach in the land.
The other part about it, I just don't know the why, because if it's you just won a championship, obviously, most of the time that's predetermined, right? Most
always
of the guys
get a huge extension.
They get an extension and a raise, makes them the highest paid in the land, and it's like an automatic trigger almost. Curt Cignetti had this happen, basically.
Yeah, Ryan Day the year before.
I just, you do this to build a fence around your coach. Who's coming for Kalen DeBoer right now?
I mean, Michigan did, but now they're not.
He already said no.
Yeah.
And maybe this was the response to that, and it's just taken this long for it to become public and for us to get the official terms of the
maybe
contract.
That's what it is, yeah.
But yeah, man,
Still a wild overpay even for that.
it feels strange for Alabama, but Alabama, their athletic department is flush. They gave Nate Oates one of the top contracts in college basketball because he got to the Sweet 16 again, and they're just like they're happy to pay down there. And
keep it rolling.
Politically, it's smiled upon as much as it can be in Alabama. Like they don't get the university athletic department has as much support as is reasonable to expect from like the entire state, from the legislature, from the governor, from everything. It's not like at Washington, in Oregon, right? Like you start increasing Dan Lanning's salary too high, and there's people in the government who are going to just be like, whoa, what are we doing here?
For a football coach, really? Yeah, that's not a thing in Alabama.
There's a reason why, like, the big paychecks in California, for the most part, go to the private school because people are going to be like, hold on a minute. We're not paying $25 million for a football staff at a government school here because someone's going to cause us to think about it. But at Alabama, you can do this. And they did, and Kalen DeBoer gets a big extension. And what Kalen DeBoer is going to buy to celebrate is a Kobe Bryant card from 1997 that sold for $3 million. Did you see this?
I did see this, yeah. Rookie card, I guess, 97.
1997. I know the card thing, the trading card thing is exploding again, and I think that's cool because it's nostalgic for me. I collected trading cards in a time where they were just like overprinted, so none of the cards from my childhood are actually worth anything because none of them are truly rare.
Yeah.
And modern day cards are rare. They're doing like some things where they have like a one-off jersey patch signed by Josh Allen, and it's truly one-of-one cards. This Kobe Bryant Metal Universe Precious Metal Gem Green card. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
PMGs, Precious Metal Gems. They are they're actually rare in a time where cards were not rare. This was excellent forethought. It's a metal card. It's 9 out of 100, and 1 through 10 were green. 11 through 100 were red. So Kobe Bryant is a green PMG, and this card sold for $3.15 million. Trading card. You pull that out of a pack, you have won the lottery.
Seriously. And the metal, by the way, not gold. Not a precious metal. just like aluminum or
just
something.
Aluminium. It's the highest price ever paid for a Kobe Bryant card.
Wow.
The most ever paid for a basketball card was
Jordan?
Let's see here. $5.9 million. You have too much money if you're paying that.
So
guys.
like double what this card went for.
That is
Wow.
I don't feel good about people paying that for trading cards, but
You wouldn't.
again, I'm a cheapskate.
Yeah. You would be Tom what's his last name?
Tom Dundon.
Dundon if you were a sports owner. If you owned the Jazz, it would be you'd be Tom
None
Dundon.
of you are getting free T-shirts. Someone on our text line yesterday was like, "I don't like the free T-shirts."
Saw that. I'm like,
He's like,
okay,
I don't
man.
like it.
It's like,
Okay.
you want a souvenir? Go buy one. All right,
Yeah,
man.
Whoa. Hey.
All right, Tom.
Or just get the free one off the back of your chair. Anyway.
All right, Tom.
All right, we will give away a family 4-pack to Lagoon and their Funnel Cake Festival happening this weekend. That's next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, Sean O'Connell Show wrapping up. We got to give away a family 4-pack to Lagoon, 877-353-0700. Who is – nope, I'm not going to use that question. I'm going to go back to Gordy Chiesa, go back to the Gordy Chiesa well. The all-time leader in playoff three-pointers in the NBA. 877-353-0700. All-time playoff leader in NBA three-pointers. For a family 4-pack to Lagoon. Advanced Window Products brings you Crosstalk next. And lo and behold, here he is. As I live and breathe.
Well, I mean, you so kindly congratulated me from, after I was able to complete my side hustle to make it over here in time. So that was nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah. You should try that. When people are just like giving you update.
Yeah. Like, hey, congrats.
Just say congrats because there's no context, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then they could get mad and think you're just being a jerk. Or they could know you're just being kind of funny. And then it tells you about their mood.
I just thought it was kind of you.
I was being mean.
Oh, you meant that to be rude?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it didn't land rudely, Sean.
Well, I tried to make it land rudely.
You need to be more outwardly rude, like the lady who today.
Uh-oh.
So I'm driving in to the side hustle. Grievance on a Thursday.
Okay, no problem.
And driving along, minding my business, all of a sudden, I think it was like a little Acura. Pulls in front of me, 2 bumper stickers. One, choose the right.
CTR.
Thank you. The other, Jesus, take the wheel. Cuts in front of me and almost hits me. Almost causes chaos. I honk the horn. I drive by and she gives me double bird.
Maybe she had taken her own bumper sticker literally and was expecting Jesus to steer the car.
That's an interesting angle. And I would imagine if JC's at the wheel, he would have been more kind on the road.
The song and the statement, it's more of like a metaphorical thing, lady.
Yeah.
Okay? He's not actually going to steer it for you.
Choose the right, Jesus take the wheel, double bird. I got from this lady today on the way into work. It's like,
love it.
I wanted to stop, but as you and I have discussed, never stop. Don't get out of the car. Just go on with your day. Okay? It's never worth it.
It's never worth it.
But I wanted to stop and be like, is that choosing the right? If Jesus took the wheel, would he double bird someone? I don't think so. I don't think you understand what that means.
The NFL draft is tonight. It begins in 3 hours.
Non sequitur.
56 minutes and about 45 seconds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just pulled that out of nowhere. There's definitely not a countdown clock right in front of me.
That's impressive. It's like Rain Man style. I'm going to throw a bunch of toothpicks on the ground before I leave.
Definitely an NFL draft. The latest mocks, which are the final desperate heaves for relevance from a lot of the draftniks, are showing Spencer Fano to Cleveland more than not.
Okay.
They've got number 6 and number 24. I want him to maximize his draft position. I don't want to see Spencer Fano end up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I know that it's different if you're an offensive lineman, and Joe Thomas had a great career there and made a lot of money there, but never got to play a dang playoff game there.
Yeah.
So I put a poll question out about what's a better outcome for your career. Number 6 to Cleveland, which is a lot higher than number 27 to San Francisco, the other example I use, because that's where where Caleb Lomu is projected to be picked. There's a $30 million disparity between your guarantees on the rookie contract there. So what's a better outcome?
I'd take the 30 mil. Your point about, I mean, first of all, I would imagine you've been to Cleveland, right?
I have been to Cleveland.
It's not the spot.
Whereas the San Francisco Bay Area,
lovely,
depending on which burg you decide to live in, is very much the spot.
I enjoy the Bay Area. I know that a lot of people believe the downtown is gone by the wayside. If you're a millionaire, you can live anywhere and be fine. In Cleveland, it's like, oh, we're going to go see the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame again? Okay, sweet. And then it's Chili's open afterwards. Like, I cannot stand that city. I'm so anti-Cleveland. It's why the whole Donovan Mitchell thing is hilarious to me. But, excuse me, $30 million is $30 million. You got to take the $30 mil guaranteed.
Well, you're getting 40-ish Yeah, 40-ish for that number 6 pick. Well, I guess it's more like it's 20-something million and then you're getting 18, I think, if you're the number 27 pick.
Yeah, I still think you want the money. And look, as far as NFL organizations, NFL teams with rich history, like Cleveland fans love their football. And when they're good, it is a football market that very much supports their team. How close are they to being good, I think, is the question. I mean, who's even playing quarterback at this point? Your point about Joe, like if you're an awesome offensive lineman, you can make it work wherever. I just always, it's such an interesting thing we do with these athletes where it's like, oh, you're the best in the world at what you do. You live in Cleveland now. In any other endeavor, you can kind of choose if you're the best at what you do. You can choose where you want to do that and kind of what that looks like for the most part. If you're a pro athlete, it's like, nope, sorry, you live in Jacksonville, just so you know. That's the deal.
Well, I think what we know about the Fano family, I think they'll make the best of whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good that can be found in a situation where you're the number 6 pick overall. But I'm like, well, it'd be cool to see him drop to 9 and at least get to play for Andy Reid at Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be fine if he ended up at 13 or whatever and was a Baltimore Raven. There's a bunch of teams that are tackle needy in this draft. So we'll see how it plays out.
I heard you talking to Ewed earlier, excuse me, after the Jesus take the wheel double bird situation. This Vrabel thing, I think, is really interesting. As we learn more and more of these pictures surface, do you think there's any chance that he is either pressured to step down or he decides, like, this is a little bit too much for me?
By massage parlor Robert Kraft?
Well, fair,
no.
But when you're the owner, you can do whatever you want. When you're the coach, it's a little bit different. The heat is pretty hot right now.
Yes, but hot heat for a losing coach is a problem. Hot heat for a winning coach doesn't matter at all.
And we're going to talk about this, okay? So we were talking about the difference between Kyle and Morgan and how you go up into the building and it does feel more relaxed. I was talking about this with Camerati yesterday. And you talk to some of the staffers that are in charge of PR and are in charge of handling the coaches and players, and it's like they've been released. They're free. They feel happy and joy for the first time. Like, what is this feeling? This coach is so nice. He's willing to do things, and not just willing to do things. He wants these things to be good, as opposed to be like, yeah, I'll give Sean 8 minutes today, and then as soon as the 8 minutes are up, I am done with him, like his predecessor. But the bottom line is what Kyle did worked, and if what Morgan is trying to do doesn't work, it's going to be a different conversation. If Mike Vrabel starts out 1-4, it's Diana Rossini day every freaking day back there. It's interesting.
How did the Patriots end their season?
Super Bowl.
What game were they in?
And if that happens again, no one will give a rip about any picture. That's the point. It's going to be predicated on results.
Yeah, and I this is all damage control stuff. He's going to counseling.
Oh, give me a break. He's going to counseling.
They announced he's going to counseling instead of going to the draft. And look, marital counseling instead of going to the draft is a wonderful gesture for him to show his wife and his family if that's what's actually happening. But this is a PR move by the interested parties. And to hear it, like, this is how prevalent that kind of behavior is in pro sports. Eric Weddle is like the most family man of family men you're going to find.
I thought he handled it well,
in pro sports. And he's just like, yeah, but I can't really judge because it's like, it's a different goalpost. Like, it's something that the rank and file, all of us mortals that work in regular jobs, you don't really understand what those environments are like and how often this type of stuff happens and how open some of these secrets really are. I mean, there was a photo bought by some tabloid today from 6 years ago.
Yeah, and that's that's add an extra layer. I have to wonder how much of this is his team knowing that this stuff is coming out, because the more and more we dig into the weeds here, the more and more this was not two peers in Sedona or whatever, like exchanging pleasantries.
Which there's another lesson to be learned here, right? Because there was a ton of there was an outcry immediately, like, be fair to Diana. You're judging her based on, you're making assumptions because she's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, even her bosses were like, no, this lacks context.
Yeah.
You guys don't know what you're talking about here. And it's pretty clear. Everyone was like, well, we could all see what's going on.
Yeah.
And you got, like, the more information you can have about a situation before you open your mouth to either attack someone or to defend someone is always better in life.
100%. And it also underscores how risky it is, albeit to your point, rather commonplace. Like, if you're going to live a little bit of a double life as a public personality, you have to understand there's probably cameras on you at all times.
There's now a camera in every room you are in,
right,
and in most outside spaces.
Yeah, so if that's how you want to roll, I think at some point you better be prepared to have a tough conversation with your bride. It's like Sharon Moore walks out of the courthouse with a Bible in his hand and his wife holding hands with his wife, and the look on her face was like,
I own you?
Yes, for the rest of your life.
Well, the judge in that case, I'll give you the rest of your show. The judge in that case, he literally said to Sharon Moore, the only reason that we are giving you your freedom right now is because of the person you hurt most with this.
Right.
His wife vouched for him and said, we need him here. We need him home.
I wonder if there's any part of Sharon Moore's like, can I go to jail? Can we reconsider this whole thing? I'm thinking 2 years. It's all good. Pop out the other side. And
a lot of those facilities are really nice now.
She'll be over it.
Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Guilty.
Is there TV? Is there TV in this jail?
Did you say I'm free? Damn it. I was counting on at least 18 months in jail.
All right.
Horrible.
Stay tuned for The Drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show.